life, up, down, left, right, underground, it's all the same. Anyway, work, play, drunk, street, love, hate, some blame, I don't care, mate. Anyway, too deep, too late, who's saved, who's changed, you know I can go. Anyway, yeah, I will. Anyway.
Welcome everyone, hope everyone's well, hope everyone is good. So just to start off, we have got Chrissy Ross on the Jambo podcast today. Welcome Chrissy, how are you, mate?
I'm very good, how's yourself?
I'm good, mate, I'm good. I think we're all sound, I think the settings are all good, I think we're alright to go. See at the start of that podcast, I'm always like, I feel like something's going to go wrong, I'm going to like cut off somebody's audio or something, but I think we're good to go.
You might want to do that intentionally later on, we'll see how we get on.
Excellent. So for anyone that doesn't know, Chrissy Ross is a comedian, but also does a lot of other stuff that has brought myself and him together. Almost, I say together. I've just clicked off our screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, how did I get you back? There we are. You're back. So Chrissy does a lot of sort of Football Manager content that I've watched before, which is probably the initial reason was comedy, but after that I've had more conversations around sort of Football Manager stuff, which has been pretty cool. So we'll touch on these sort of subjects as we go on through the podcast. Me and Chrissy were just talking there. I've seen Chrissy a couple of times, and we'll come on to this later on. I've seen him at two shows. Me and my girlfriend saw Gary and Chrissy at Three Sisters in Edinburgh, which a brilliant show when you were supporting Gary Fawlds, and also at the Armadillo, which was incredible. That was some show, massive venue for the 2 years, which was absolute class. So phenomenal. So to have you on this podcast is insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, look, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, you've only got the support act. You've not got Gary Fawlds on. You know what I mean? So it's like you're doing well. It's like the guy in Chernobyl says, not great, not terrible. You know, you're doing good. But I know it's good to be on, because like you're one of the few people I know that likes Football Manager and still has a bird. So well done on that one.
Doing well. So I wanted to let you into something that I've probably not told you before. I think when you first started out on Twitch, you actually helped me quite a lot, and I probably wouldn't be on Twitch without you, because I remember when you first started, you were doing sort of Facebook content, and do you know how I don't know, you could do this at the start. I learned for yourself, but you could almost do like multi-platform where you streamed. Yeah. And I watched you doing that, and I was like, this looks brilliant. And you were doing Football Manager, and I was sitting talking to me, and I was like, this is brilliant. And then I ended up messaging you and saying, like, what's your new setup and stuff. So I probably wouldn't have been doing half of this stuff if it wasn't for yourself, to be honest, mate. So when I had the chance to get you on, and after all that, I was like, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait to do this.
Well, look, that's good to hear. That's good to hear, because a big part of what I do out with the comedy stuff is trying to encourage people to just go for what they want in life and have fun and enjoy themselves. And you've certainly been bloody doing that. So, you know, credit to you. It's weird because, like, I said this to you before we started the show here. I'll repeat it for your audience now, but I've not really done anything on social media during this lockdown, because I decided to. Not only did I finish off my uni degree as the first lockdown started, but then I decided to go back and do a master's in events and tourism, because I thought, right, fuck it, I've got the undergrad, so I may as well get the other bit of paper that I can use as well, just to like complete the set, like a fucking Pokemon collector, a fucking academia. So that's what I ended up doing. And yeah, so I've got my dissertation for my MSc now that I'm doing at Glasgow Caledonian University. And if you've never heard of that, there's good reason for that, because it's made up. It's an online document. It's based in Accra, Ghana. No, it's based in Glasgow. And but it's a new university. It's only been around for about 20 odd years, 30 years. Before that, it used to be a polytechnic, which is where you used to go to do an apprenticeship if you weren't fucking smart enough to go to a proper. So yeah, getting my MSc from there, and that's kind of been like my focus this year, because I thought I don't want to have any regrets and look back in this. Still writing comedy and stuff like that, but I did initially, as you've seen, start out doing the FM stuff and the streaming. I thought, loads of time to batter into this. Bought all the equipment for a podcasting studio, never using it. Obviously, I'm using some of it just now to do the sort of video chat with you just now, which is great. But yeah, just it's been a bizarre year, hasn't it? So
it has been. That's one of the things I want to touch on later on with yourselves. Just, I think, for comedy and lockdown must have been brutally hard for you, but we will come on to that. For anyone that's watching just now, we have also got the chat function on Twitch, so if you have got any questions for myself or Chrissy, please do just chuck them into the chat. I'll ask Chrissy as we're going through. If you've got any opinions or thoughts on what we're talking about at the time, again, just let us know in the chat what your thoughts are. So we'll get straight into some of the questions, Chrissy, mate. The first one, we're going in deep. We're going in deep straight away.
Fire away.
But I want to know, and there's a reason behind that why I want to know this. But what were you sort of looking to be when you were younger? What was your job that you looked up to?
Right, okay. Bear in mind I'm old as fuck now. The grey hair's no just for dramatic effect. Seriously. What do I have been when I was younger? It's weird. Here's something not many people know. When I was 17, I left school in East End of Glasgow and went straight to uni. The first time I went to uni to do primary school teaching.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I did that for 3 years, teacher training, education, to be a primary school teacher. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a school teacher. I wanted to be a football coach as well. And got my coaching badges as well. And I was captain of my uni team for 1 year. The other 2 years, I was on the borders of the squad. I say the borders of the squad. I would turn up some games and I would spew in the pitch because I'd been on it the night before, which meant I get put in the substitutes bench. And then other games, I was able to spew before I got on the team bus and did the warm-ups, so I would get played. But my uni team was shit, so it was easy to become captain of it. And then I went to City. After 3 years of doing the teaching, I decided I wanted to see the world because I taught English abroad in Denmark. Joined the Merchant Navy, saw the world, got paid to do it. And that was great. Slave labour. I think I worked out, I think it was like £2.50 per hour if you take into amount of hours I worked during my apprenticeship. That was like proper, like 18-hour days on the regular, 7 days a week, 9 months of the year. It was hard going, but I got my qualification, became an engineer officer in the Merchant Navy. That was over age of 24, 25, and then I had my son, and that's when my life ended. So, that was the last time I was fucking happy.
What made you not continue on with the teaching stuff? Was it just no for you once you went through it? Or?
I'll be very honest with you in this. I've never fucking spoken about this before. It's weird you ask me this. So, right, okay. Why did I not want to become a teacher? Because I realised that every day you do the job, you have to act and pretend that you're the happiest bugger in the world, even if you're having a shit time. And that was one element of it that I just couldn't be asked with, because I was like 18, 19, 20 when I was doing it, you know what I mean? I was still a bam to an extent. I don't have as much of an East End of Glasgow accent, although people listening to this will be like, mate, we need this in text below. We don't understand the words you're saying. But my accent was a lot thicker. I was ending every sentence with right and know what I mean? You know, so I'd be chatting to kids down in Ayrshire and I'd be like, so, the next planet in the solar system is Venus, know what I mean? Right, I had like these wee verbal tics that I grew up with dialectually. So I had to change the whole way I spoke and went through this whole journey. I've been told that the way I spoke wasn't right and everything else. Even then it wasn't changing, it wasn't. So that pissed me off a wee bit because I was quite proud of where I came from. So when I see guys like Chris McQueer, and who's a brilliant author and does comedy stuff, and I see other people like Jerry Cinnamon and all of that, I'm like, good on them, because they're speaking in a Glasgow dialect. They're no changing what they're doing, they're just putting their art out there, and I love that. But when I was younger, it was like a real chip in the shoulder for me. And the other reason was, in all the primary schools I went to, it was all full of women, and they were all bitching like hell. And I'd always came from a environment where if you had a problem with someone, you just spoke to them.
Yeah.
And here's my first experience, a professional environment, and it's just full of people that are on knifing each other for their careers, and like, being really two-faced about it as well. And I was just like, do I want to spend the next 20, 30, 40 years in this environment? And the answer was no, I don't. You know? And so that was how. And when I taught English abroad in Denmark, I say taught, it was a 3-month jolly in the Erasmus project. which is like the foreign student exchange programme that the EU ran.
Okay.
But Brexit means Brexit, so no Scottish kids will be fucking doing that anymore. And I was like, it was like the opening years of the Erasmus project, so like it was good for me to go and get that experience and, you know, be in Denmark, played a bit of football over there as well, really enjoyed it. And I was like, do you want to know what, I just want to see the world now. And if I can get paid, one of my mates was in the Merchant Navy as a deck officer trainee, and he was like, just come and do what you're doing, you get paid, you get a drink, you have a laugh. And me at that time was like, I get paid to get drunk, fucking count me in. You know, so away I went.
And what position did you play when you played football?
I started off as a wing back, and that was great when I was younger because I could get up and down the pitch. And then I realised when I hit about 18, 19, I realised that everybody I was playing with wasn't as mental as me. So when it came to like winning aerial balls and stuff like that, because I wasn't good at football at all, I was shite. But I would get in teams because I'd be the fittest one, which is ironic as fuck now. Right? But I used to get slagged off, like, get called Forrest Gump and shit like that, because I just would keep running. I'd just run all day and train and everything else. But I was very fortunate. I played along with people, pretty much every team, like my school team and like the team I played with at the time, the East End of Glasgow, was full of really talented players. So I was at the time you had your Zidans and Pavlins and your Real Madrid. Well, I was one of your Pavlins. I was one of your water carrier. I was your Deschamps water carrier to these Zidans that I was playing with. And I had guys like one of the guys, Kevin McDonald, I played with. He played like 40 odd times for Motherwell. I think he's still playing junior football. He's like 38 and he's still playing. There was really good players that I was in teams with that, and not all of them went on to play like professional, but I think the vast majority of them, even to this day, are still involved in like junior amateur football and take care of themselves. One of them went over to America, got a scholarship, you know, and it was like the people we're playing against. I just remember like, all these guys, like even the next generation coming through, the ones younger than me, like James MacArthur and stuff like that went to my school. There was like, our school had a good reputation for bringing through players. So it was good, but I was a centre half, ended up in centre half and really enjoyed it. Did that at school. I was shite, but I'd throw myself in front of anything. And then went to uni, played centre half again, and then found out through doing the coaching. It's weird, I only became a half decent football player once I started doing coaching, because then I realised, there's tactics involved.
More to this than running that pitch.
I started positioning myself, so I knew I couldn't run about for 90 minutes, so what I do is I just step off. So instead of trying to play an offside line, I would like pretend to play the offside when I go to kick it, and I'd take like 4 steps back. So I'd like have time by the time the ball landed to not get involved in that aerial battle and end up with a concussion, and just wait to the second ball or the bounce or whatever. There was times I was playing and a guy would go up for a header, they would punt the ball and the guy would be getting ready to tussle with me, and he's like got his arms on it, and I'd just take like 5 steps back and fall down, because he's expecting to lean into me, you know, to win this ball up there, and he just headers it, and I just get the second ball because he's trying to header the ball instead of taking a chest or taking it down. Because there's no centre forward in the world that plays like amateur or junior football and thinks he's got the time to chest the ball, take a touch on it. You know, so they're always like hitting it right away. So as I was getting accused of being a shite bag at the time, but then my teammates realised what I was doing, and I'm like, that's quite fucking sneaky, you. You know? And so yeah, I enjoyed that, did that. And it's just weird, like being the Merchant Navy, I ended up some fucking broad. Not just kebabs, because like I was doing like weightlifting every day and different types of exercise. So I went from doing like football training 4 or 5 nights a week to lifting weights every night, and you just end up a different animal. But to answer that, I was shite at football, and even if I did all the breaks in the world, I was never making it. Now you hear all these middle-aged guys going, when I was younger, I was a no bad player. I could have made Celtic's first team, you know, but just injuries. No, I didn't have any injuries. I was just shite, you know.
I totally get what you're saying, though. I'm similar to you. I played, and then I went to college and done like sports coaching and tried to do I done some of the badges and stuff. Didn't take it too far, but it changed your mindset once you do the badges and stuff to actually playing football. It's a mindset change, isn't it? In comparison to just playing.
The great thing is obviously doing like coaching stuff like yourself and what I did, getting your badges. You then realise, right? Because at that time, Championship Manager was out, And I'd like sneakily played it I played a version during the Euros, Euro 96, my mate Leary's house. And I was like, I just watched him, he was playing the PC, and I was standing behind him going, that looks great, I wish I could do that. You know, just watching these wee pixels move about and all of that, and text. Don't even think we had the pixels in it, it was just the text, didn't even have the fucking 2D stuff. And I was, I like the look of that, dead into like the stats stuff, and I had a game like Premier Manager, which was like, you had this mad wheel that you had to turn around to unlock the game every time you entered it, and it was really, really old. Yeah, Premier Manager, if you look that up, it was a PC game for like the mid-90s, and it was just like the English league you could do.
Okay.
The conference up to the Premier League, but it was precursor to FM, it was brilliant.
Aye.
So yeah, playing that, and then got to uni, and it wasn't until I got to like uni, and I got in like first year of uni, and I got FM for the first time, so I had a laptop at uni, and I'd never had my own like computer before. And like, don't get me wrong, I had a bricky and Nokia, I didn't have anything else that fancy, you know what I mean? But I had this Acer laptop, and it could play FM, you had the CD, and it was weird because I'd worked out, even before you had like air cooling and all of that, I worked out that if I was playing FM that much, that I needed to air cool my fucking laptop.
Wow.
So instead of putting it on a table, I'd put it on like one of these wee sandwich tables that had like the wooden brackets underneath that were all like spaces, because it needed the air to get into it, because it was overheating that much. And that boy burned out in a year, and I took it, and I'd got it insured, which was great. I'm glad I did. And my parents got it insured at the time. They were like, you're going to need a new laptop because you're a student and you're going to be clumsy and you're going to be drunk and you're going to bump into your laptop. What they didn't expect was that when the laptop gets taken to the insurers, they're like, yeah, there's a CD disc melted inside. You know? And that was like Championship Manager. It was the blue one. No, actually, tell a lie. I played the blue one. I bought the blue one after. It was a 01-02 version Championship Manager one. And like, it was the one after, because now you've got the version that had Mark Kerr and Tom Madera and all of this is like in Folklore. And it was I played that version, but I bought that afterwards. It was the version after that I got, and all these amazing fucking great Nordic players, Swedish players and everything. I was like, oh great, deep dive in this. And this is really, really bad, and I'm going to admit this, and it doesn't matter because she's met somebody else, had a kid, and is really, really happy now. But I was dating a girl at that time, and I had been for quite a while, and she stayed in Glasgow and I stayed in Ayr at uni, and she was like, oh, you coming up at weekends? And I'd be like, I really can't, I've got too much on. And I was literally sitting in my flat playing a network game on the LAN with my two flatmates and patching, getting my hole so that I could play FM the whole weekend. And legitimately, like, patching like nights out and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I want to play this. And it's weird, you make like decisions in your life. It was like, oh, what were you getting up to when you were 18, 19? I was like obsessively scouting Sweden. You know? I was a bit of a weirdo when I was younger, I'm not going to lie.
So you touched on there about the Royal Navy, and I didn't want to speak to you about this because I know I've obviously heard the Sven story that you do part of your stand-up, and I wasn't sure if that was like just part of what you were saying, or if that was an actual real part. So.
If anybody wants to check out Sven, Chrissy Ross, that happened. It's on my comedy page. It's pinned to my Twitter, I think. I was in the Merchant Navy, and that was when I was turning 21, and that was my 21st birthday. Was the Sven story. Nearly get murdered my 21st. Nearly get murdered a couple of times at sea, but that was the most entertaining one. As you know, murders are always entertaining, especially the attempted ones. You can always have a laugh about the attempted murder on you afterwards. Whereas the murder, it's only really the killer that gets a buzz. So yeah, that happened. But yeah, joined the Merchant Navy as an engineer officer. What was weird was, right, this shows you how stubborn I am. I had no aptitude for engineering. Like none, absolutely none. And they just gave me an option of, do you want to do deck training or do you want to do engineering? And I said, what's the difference? And they said, well, on the deck, you're on top of the ship, you look out and everything. And the engineering one, you're fixing everything on the ship. And my great uncle had fought in the Second World War. Well, I say fought in the Second World War, he'd served in the Second World War on a merchant ship that had been torpedoed by the Japanese, and he won a medal for saving the ship as the engineer. And I'd spoke to Ted about it, and he says, you go and work an engineer, but you'll have the respect to the ship, but if you're a deck officer, they'll just think you're a prick. Because all you do is stand on the bridge and give orders, whereas an engineer, the crew will respect. And part of me was like, do you want to know, if I go and do this job, I don't mind graft, so I don't mind working really hard every day. I'll learn it. I'm a great believer that if you apply yourself, you work really hard, you can learn whatever you like. And I was shit at tech at school. I didn't do it beyond second year. And like maths was the only thing I failed at high school. Physics, didn't do it as a higher, struggled with it in like third, fourth year. So like going to do engineering was like quite a reach, you know. And I got my engineering qualification. If you so much ask me to put an IKEA flat pack together, I'll have a meltdown. But apparently I was certified up until about 4 years ago to fix fucking multi-million-pound engines, which amuses me to this day. It shows you that you can learn how to pass exams, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you're doing.
Aye.
You know, because I drank my way through that apprenticeship, I'm not going to lie. But I've just got a really good visual memory. So, like, I would study before the exams and I'd pick up. But a lot of the time I was in the classes and I was hungover and I was reading, like, Terry Pratchett books under the table and shit like that. You know, The Colour of Magic or, you know, Thermodynamics. And I was like, fucking, the Wizards are winning here. So that was pretty much that. But yeah, 4 years of my life doing the apprenticeship, then a year or so working, and then, as I said, my life ended and I became a dad. So
Is that why you left that job?
Yeah, every single guy I spoke to in the Merchant Navy all had the same response when asked about what their only regret was. Every guy of a certain age, younger ones didn't get monkeys, but the older ones, anybody in like their late 30s and onwards, always said their only regret about doing the job. And don't get me wrong, these guys were fabulously well paid. They were on like 60 plus grand a year.
Aye.
But they said they massively regretted not seeing their kids growing up. And they're like, all the money in the world doesn't give you that time back.
Yeah.
So like, I remember at the time when I found out it was going to be my dad, going to be a dad, and be my dad originally, be a dad. And they were basically like, you should, do you want to be a good dad, or you just want to make money and keep living this mad life? And I'd reached the point, thankfully I'd reached that point where I'd ripped the arse out of everything. You know that, maybe you don't know, but some people know this, right? See, if money was there to be earned, and I was away at sea for 9 months and I'd come home and I'd have spare money to go mental at lap dancing bars, curries every night with my pals, getting out mad with it, bookies, everything else, casinos, playing poker and everything. And I was like, it was the right time for me to meet somebody to settle down and, you know, have a moratorium and all that banter, because I'd sort of like, there wasn't like any boxes unticked anymore for what I wanted to try and experiment with and go mental with. I'd sort of like reached my end point of I've tried everything, I've had a great time, if I die tomorrow, no regrets sort of thing.
Aye.
Whereas I think a year or two earlier I would have made maybe the wrong decision and just kept at it.
Yeah. Stu in chat said it sounds like me. As in him, not me.
It's like me. Yeah, Stu's got a vibe. He knows.
Stu, you said there about poker. Stu actually has been teaching me how to play poker. Do you play a bit of poker still, or?
See, that's a dangerous comment, right? It got to the stage where when I met my ex-wife, lovely person, mother of my child, amazing human being. Wouldn't have said that the last 10 years, but we're getting on quite well now. His maturity has hit me, but actually was at the stage where it was like, you're going to have to give up some things if you're going to be with me, because I'm just not going to tolerate it. And I was like, fair enough. And she went, you're going to have to get up the lap dancing bars. And I thought, well, that's a given, isn't it? You're not going to get away with that banter anymore. If you're in a relationship and settling down. And she was like, the going out with your pals and gone missing for weekends, that's going to have to stop. And I thought, again, fair enough. You know, she's picking the things she'll like, I really can't debate about, you know. And I was like, well, what about the poker? And she says, well, you seem to have a good handle on that and you're not losing any money in it, are you? And I was like, no, I'm quite responsible. And I was. I never gambled what I couldn't afford to lose. Or I never walked away from a game of poker going, oh, fuck, I can't believe I lost that. I always went out with like a budget. And as soon as I put that in my pocket, I was of the assumption of, well, this money's spent. You know, this is like and I think that was maybe from my Navy days, but when I was in the Merchant Navy, I won a lot of money on the ships playing poker. And the great thing about being away is it gave you time to learn stuff. So like,
Yeah.
I took a book by a guy called Doyle Brunson, Super System 2, big massive tome all about poker, and I think my ex has still got it, but it taught me everything possible. Doyle Brunson was like a legend of like the poker scene in America, and this book taught me absolutely everything I needed to know about poker at that time, and playing at sea on the ships, and I just get really good at it. But I was really strict because I was like, right, well, this is this guy that's made his millions through playing it,
Yeah.
but he's also very honest about the fact of, you know, I can teach you everything, but it just comes down to your own intuition and decisions, and you can apply what I'm teaching you, but please remember that everyone else is going to have a similar mindset. And I think once people play poker at a certain level, they all know what a bad decision is, but it's just using your intuition and judgment against, well, what's other people's fucking decision making happening. So I get really quite good at it, to the extent where, like, playing locally and like casinos and that, I was playing against the likes of Alan McGregor and Steve Davis and stuff like that. It was weird. There was like these underground poker nights that I can't even remember how I found out about them, but they were definitely illegal betting dens. Like, there was definitely there was no like gambling commission taking a cut on these, but you were getting like football players and sports stars that were coming along, and I think I'd built up like a decent rep of just not being a dick, and like I would have a drink, but I would never be loud, and I would just like turn up. I was like the sailor Chrissy, have a few drinks, boom, play some poker, and I wouldn't win that much. I'd sometimes get my money back, and it was very much a sit and go table where you could like sit and play with the lads, and then once you hit your limit, but there's etiquette, you know what I mean? You don't take everybody's money and then immediately go, right, I'm off. Like, if you win a big pot, you stay in for maybe another 30 minutes, give people a chance to get their money back, and then say, right, lads, that's the night, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I sort of learned that through watching. And so I taught my missus how to play poker, and she ended up better than me. Took her to the Riverboat Casino in Glasgow, and she came second in a tournament.
Serious?
100 people. I got in the final table as well, but I had to leave the game because I could no longer stand at one point. And it was weird because everybody else playing was like virtually stone cold sober apart from me and my missus. And we were just treating it as a night out. But because we were doing that, we were fearless. There was no tells. Drunk people don't have tells because they're always blatantly obvious in everything they're doing.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, you know, it'd get to the stage where they go, they're that drunk that when they're betting, they've got a good hand. But we know in our heads, you can just take advantage of that and make mad bets, and you'll either get away with it or no. So to answer your question, I've not played poker. It's a new fucking game I've invented at TM. But I've not played poker properly for a while. But it's one of those games where if I do it, I'm an absolute fucking shark at it. I did it. I was going to play with a guy called Chris Dinwiddie, who's a magician, which is always a bad idea, playing fucking card games with magicians. But he was another one that I knew him. It was weird, I was chatting to him. I knew him through comedy, but he didn't realise I knew him from back in the day because we were both two of the younger ones sitting at these illegal fucking games. You know, and he was back in the day doing that. But needless to say, I'll not be dealing any cards if they end up playing together. Because I'm wise to that banter. But I was talking about like, getting a game with him at some point the other year, and then obviously everything hit. But I'd love to play again, man. I'd love to play again because it's a great game. How about yourself? How did you get into it?
It was actually through Stu. So I started off streaming nearly a year ago now, actually, and I mostly done sort of gaming streams, and then Stu, who I met through another streamer who done like FM and stuff, used to go into his streams. We started chatting, and Stu started teaching me how to play poker. But I'm not that great. Like Stu is pretty decent. He's like a profitable player. But it's just something like, do you know what? I stopped betting as much. I used to go like Sky Bet, chuck on a bet for every game, and I was like, this is rubbish. So I thought I'll play some poker, but it's just good. Like I think I really look forward to like just being able to go back and just like go into a casino and actually play with like folk though. Like I've never been able to do that and just like sit having a drink with a few people, or like have your mates around and just play a bit of poker, like chuck a fiver in, winner takes the money or something like that. Just something a bit fun like that. But so I wouldn't say I'm very good. I'm not that good at that decision making
stuff. You're smiling, like, you're not crying. That's not like a good sign that you're no bad at poker. I mean, I think the main thing is the last games I sort of played live were with friends, and it was like we all put a tenner in, and then we had like a tenner rebuy. And that's your whack. And the agreement at the table is that no matter when you spunk your 20 quid, that's your 20 quid. and there's no buying back in. And I think if you have that rules like that, then nobody's going to get too upset. Because one, all right, if you go it, then you're out and that's fine, but it's only 20 quid. You'd spend that going to the cinema. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But no, live games will happen. And yeah, I'm just looking at your chat. Daffy, ask us if he's heard of the up-and-coming football player Jomi or Jomi. There's probably a joke in there or something.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
I'm looking at that going, there's definitely a trolling effort there, but I have no idea what it's for.
Do you know what I got done with the...
Like all terrible comedians, could you explain why that's funny? And it's not a joke. Joe M. I have not, but if you're an agent and this is you advertising this player, as you're saying in the chat, you're going to have to give me that football highlight reel of them at 5-a-sides in Townhead in Glasgow. Joe me mama, no, you're at it now. But no, generally, again, if it's not a joke, I'm not getting it. But if it is a real player, you're not getting your 10% commission because nobody's heard them.
I'm not sure.
Joe Mama. Oh, right. Okay, we're getting there. Your mama. Joe Mama. You're difficult. I would say I'm difficult, right? But if I have to ask you the setup for the joke and then we don't get the setup and then we get there and then you explain the punchline as well and we're still like, right, then, you know, I don't know. Just get a CAT scan because I don't know when you hit your head, but it's clear you maybe have. You know, much love to you, but you know, maybe use spoons for now on, not even sporks. Take it easy. Just take it easy.
I got done with
everyone else got it. You're the first one. No, I'm refusing to believe that. Your teddy bears don't count.
I got
special. It's okay though. I'm just enjoying your chat that seems to have turned into a let's try and roast them, but at the same time roast ourselves. Your Darcells. See, there we go, right? Stu's got the idea, right? Your Darcells Avon, right? There you go. There's something that phonetically fucking works there. There's banter. We can get that. That works. You know?
Aye.
Fucking well done, Stu. Not only are you a decent poker player and gambling enabler, but you've also got banter. Anyway, continue.
I was saying, when I'm playing FM, I often get like, do you know when somebody's like, "Oh, search this player," and I got the Scotch Egg one, and I was looking at this name, and I was like, Scotch Egg, and I was like, this isn't coming up, and I was sitting there for ages, and do you know when it just clicked, and I was like, oh no, and the whole chat was just like ripping into me. Well, it's embarrassing, man, embarrassing. But
this is the thing, right? The internet, unless it's a porn website, the internet is not where nice comments are. The comment section, unless you are, don't get me wrong, there's probably a lot of people on Twitch just now in a bathtub that are getting lots of compliments, you know, but that is different. Oh God, I'm reading your chat again, and it's like Chrissy Ross, more like Chrissy Bison. Don't delete the moderators. Do not delete the comments. It's brilliant scene tumbleweed in the comment section. Leave it in. Leave it in. This is what, right? See when people try to have banter with you and they realise you're actually like a comedian and you can deal with it and you're not going to take the huff and you will laugh if it's good, but you'll no laugh. And
Aye.
I think the only thing better than a really good joke for me is when someone tells something and it's shit and you just make it really, really awkward and make it worse and worse and worse and just let it escalate. That does it for me. Sorry. Anyway, I've hijacked this.
No, you're alright. So one of the things I would speak to you about, and this was something I actually didn't know that you'd done, was you've actually done a bit of work for MMA UK, which I didn't realise. And you've interviewed I can't remember the Scottish boy's name that's in the UFC now. I watched an interview we done with him. That's pretty cool.
You interviewed Stevie Ray, Paul Craig, the Bears.
That was it. That was it. Paul Craig.
But Chris Bungard, who is, I'd say, quite pal away. Every time we meet Chris, he's an absolute gem. Same with Paul and that as well. Andrea KGB Lee that I just spoke to, Brad Pickett, who's like a UFC vet, Michael Venom Page, who's now one of the best in his weight division in Bellator, and yes, interviewed a lot of people from MMA UK. That came about because I seen what they were doing. and I wanted to start up a live podcast. And I basically just went fishing for it. I just said, look, is there any chance I could do this with you folks? And they were like, yeah, sure, just bar in. And I was like, right, cool. So we tried it. We did the recording and everything else. Video podcast. I'm dead keen in video content, not just audio.
Aye,
and I was like, yeah, just let's give us a go. And yeah, I got to speak with all these mad people for the UFC. And I've been watching the UFC. It's weird talking about the Merchant Navy. I had the first, I think, 12 UFCs on DVD, and I took them away to see with me. And I remember like my Filipino crewmates and that, and that was the thing that bonded us. We'd sit and watch the UFC and then play poker afterwards. And then they'd watch porn together, which is weird. Right, here's a question I need to ask, right? Has anyone in the chat, right, ever watched porn with another group of guys? I cannot, for the life of me, understand. That is not a group sport. That is not a group activity. But that's what they do. We'd watch these UFC DVDs, we'd play some poker, and then 12 of them would go sit in the common room, watch porn, and openly just throw the Honda in the trousers or the trackie bottoms and just go at it in the room together. And I'm like, this is awkward. And then I questioned them on it, right? Because I was like, look, guys, don't want to be rude. Like, don't know if this is just like a Filipino thing or if I'm just being a prude being Scottish, you know, but like, why are we all watching this in the same room? And they gave me a really good answer. They said, because this wastes less electricity. And if we all go to our laptops at the end of the night, apparently we'll do the Jenny in with the power supply consumption. I have like 20 odd guys going on a laptop and chugging off at the one time. So I don't know if that's true or no, but I was a bit stunned that was a practice. Do you know what it's like being on a ship for 8 months with guys that all have group wanks and you're the one no taking part? It's hard going. It really is. It's hard going.
That's tremendous.
See, KC boy, you have Chrissy with you, nice one. That's good. I remember KC boy's good laugh. Kieran, yes, Jambo. Hope you're well, mate. Are you like, make a wish or something? Is that why you've got the hat on? He's like, I hope you're well.
Oh,
do
no.
you get the big fucking C or something? You know, what's going on here? Kieran, we need more information than that. You can't just throw that in the chat. Stu's put something in your chat as well. Had the Bukaki vid on for a laugh once drunk at oh, not even going to ask. Yeah. Stu, the two impressive things about that is one that Stu put that vid on with his pals, and the second thing is his mate's girlfriend was like, no, I'm not even going to ask. That's cool. That's an understanding. That's someone that's been with somebody and just went, you're a bit fucking weird, but I accept you, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Casey boy, thank you for the bits, mate. I appreciate that and welcome in. So let's go on to comedy now. So what was it that got you into comedy? Because if I'm right, is it about a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, is that right?
No, it's actually longer. It's weird. I started out same time, virtually within about a gig or two of Gary Miko and Gary Falls, who are like my two best buddies. They two and Rachel Jackson in the comedy world. They three are all fabulously successful and famous, and I'm no. But no, joking aside, Gary, both the Garys started out with. We did our first Glasgow Comedy Festival shows together. And yeah, it was weird. Why did I get into it? I was working with a guy who also is really successful now, a guy called Ian McDonald, does puns, he's been papers, done some TV stuff and that Ian's done. And I was working with him in the call centre, and he was like, yeah, I love, he's like, I do comedy, I love doing this, I do puns and everything. And working with him in the call centre, me and him were always having a laugh all the time. So I was like, yeah, I'll go along, support you, go along to your show. And then watching him doing, I thought, do you want to know what? I fancy doing that. I fancy giving that a go. And I did, and it was shite. And then I try it again for 8 months, and then I did like the Stand Red Raw, and again I was shite again. And I did that. I was weird, like my first like proper gig at the Stand in Red Raw, like 180 people, and people were laughing, I think, out of sympathy. But like I wasn't that good. And there was other comics like Chris from MacArthur Boyd. I think it was like one of his first gigs. And he's now on TV, he's got his own TV show and stuff like that. Me and him were just outside consoling each other, going, you know, that was really great, but it could have been better, you know. And you could even see back then how talented he was really good. But yeah, just get into it, thought giving it a go. That typical trope. Like, I've just came out of a really bad divorce as well, and I was like, do you want to know what? I want to do stuff that I find fun.
Aye.
You know, so I was doing like football coaching at the time. I was doing that professionally at that point. I was running my own kids' coaching academies as well as part-time in the call centre, and I was like, you know, I wanted maybe just do this for a hobby and have a laugh.
Yeah.
And it's just grew out of that. And I'll be honest with you, like 4 years ago when I went to uni to do the event stuff, it was purely just to be a comedy promoter. I never thought I would actually get paid for doing comedy.
Yeah.
And the way it's just worked out is it's worked out really well, because 2 years into that course, Gary Falls was like, you want to start supporting me in the gigs? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I was doing that, but I was really nervous because like, Gary was building up quite a following, whereas I had nothing, and I didn't even believe myself at that point. He says, no, you just need to work really hard on it and you'll get better at it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did. And yeah, it was only when I started like doing the stuff with Gary that I had my confidence built up in it, and I actually thought, you know what, I'm good enough to actually do this and make money out of it. We did well, but if it wasn't for Falls, I would have chucked it. Because I was having so much fun with him, and I still do. Like, I'm doing these tour shows when they start back up in September, and that's his support act. And you know, he's incredibly generous. He doesn't need to have me there, but at the same time, it's like he knows I'd do it for free as well. Because for us, it's just a case of just having a laugh. I mean, we're meeting up tomorrow and getting a bite to eat for lunch, and if me and him weren't doing comedy, we'd still be doing that. We'd still be going out and meeting up and having a laugh and having a drink now and again and having a good time. So it's good that we've got the comedy stuff that gives us an excuse just to hang out. But at the same time, once we do the gigs, and I think that was like the big change over the last few years, after the first year of him taking off and having the success, he realised he had a responsibility to put on a really good show. Yeah. Which he's always had good shows, but he started to really work hard at doing the professionalism and putting on the best possible show he could. And then I realised as his support act, I had to stop getting mad about every night. I had to like really, you know, it was like there's a time where you're like, right, there has to be balance, you know. So when we do the shows now, it's like we've really worked hard to like prepare the material. Don't get me wrong, it's weird I say that, right? Because like, Gary's perfect for this, right? See, when Gary goes on stage, he'll have worked out an hour's show, and he'll have written it down, and he'll have scripted all out. I cannot tell you how many times we've done a show and he's just went on and started talking to the audience, and it's just fucking went off in tangents.
The spiral.
And then he comes out, and I'm looking at his set list, like the titles, like the set list, and like the certain things he's got to talk about. And he's maybe out of the 20 things he was going to talk about, he's talked about 5 of them. And I was like, where did that other 40, 50 minutes come from? And he said, I was just riffing. And as he's just improvised it on the spot, and he's just having banter, and he's just going. It's exceptional. There's only one other comedian I've seen that can do that, and it's Raymond Mearns. But Gary doesn't get enough credit for his natural ability to just be funny and just be charismatic. There's virtually nobody else. Raymond Mearns is the only one I know, and I think Gary will only get that. If other comedians knew what Gary did, I think he would get a hell of a lot more respect within the industry, because some of the stuff he pulls off is just sublime. And it's mad. It's mad the amount of material he's got, and it's mad that he can just go on stage and he'll have bits prepared, but like huge chunks just come out of the ether, and it just comes out of the interactions. For me, obviously you've been to 2 shows. You've seen 2 very different shows with me. The Three Sisters in Edinburgh, which I think was like 130 people, but it was in a weird, like, long-shaped room, wasn't it? With like pillars and shit.
It was, because I didn't actually realise the room was there because and anyone that's in chat's been in Three Sisters, you'll see Three Sisters, a big, nice sort of open venue. But at the back right-hand corner, there's like a stairwell that takes you up into this like kind of event room, which I didn't actually know was there until I went to the first show where it was yourself and Gary. But it was like a really, like a kind of Edinburgh building. It was like stony, wasn't it? Really narrow building. And it was a really, really good show, to be fair. But that was the first time I'd ever, the way we kind of got into it was Kathleen watched a lot of Gary's. Do you know how he does all the sort of videos in his car and stuff, does all the comedy and that? He was doing a lot of that, so Kathleen followed. And then after that, I ended up doing we seen the show was coming out, so we went to that show, and then obviously the second one. But they were brilliant shows. But I'm intrigued. You were saying about a story from that show. I'm intrigued from the Three Sisters.
Right. So, obviously my background's in event management and stuff, right? And Gary's got a really great agent, David, who comes to a lot of the shows. At most of them, he tries to most of them. He's got 2 clients mainly that works with Gary Meeko and Gary Falls, and he tries to be there for all their shows. But we're doing this show at the Three Sisters, and it's like one of the most awkward venues we've dealt with. And like I basically ended up doing like tech checks and doing a whole load of stuff that I would never normally do.
Yeah, okay.
But thankfully I had that background at uni and stuff like that. I was like, right, this is where this actually comes into effect and helps out a wee bit. But that was just such an awkward room because of like the audio and like everything with the way it was, with the way it was set out. And I remember like doing like 25-30 minutes. And like Edinburgh's never been a place I love for me when I do gigs. It's always a hard run. It wasn't until like, I did the Fringe where I felt properly good about it. It's weird because I did like the Fringe like a month after that and it was amazing. But no, actually it was a year after that because I did what's the hall? I'm trying to remember. There's a large venue, a 500-seater venue in Edinburgh we did just for the Fringe in 2019. Oh, sorry, I can't remember.
Was it
Playhouse.
Playhouse, aye.
Maybe that was one of their rooms or something. Huge venue, and but that free system was so awkward because of the audio, and I was trying to make sure everybody up the back could hear, and the PA system wasn't great, and it was weird. I mean, we both had a good gig, but I think afterwards, Bayface turned to each other and went, "Never again in there." Like, no matter where we do next, never again. And I think that was like one of the last bar gigs that Gary did. Like, it was just like, I'm just sick of turning up to venues, doing my turn, and they should have been doing a lot more to help us out as well as a venue.
Yeah, definitely.
And don't get me wrong, since done like smaller events, like non-comedy events, and it's been fine. But yeah, that was just hard work. Compare that to then the Armadillo, which was the next gig you seen us at, 3,000 people, absolutely amazing. Brilliant night, probably one of the best gigs I've ever had. I thought I was just on. Now that way, you go on stage and just everything you say lands, and like then just dealing with heckles. Normally, like, comedians in a venue that size when they bother dealing with heckles, but I'm just like, fuck it, let's just go for it. And there's like people coming in late and all that, and I was just slaughtering them. I was like, yes, because I was just thinking if I was going to a show like this, I wouldn't want to just see somebody rip off a script. I would want to like have something in the moment to live off of. So normally I would only ever say anything to somebody if they shouted out. But for this one, because it was so blatant, they're coming in like 5-10 minutes late, halfway through my set, dressed up in leopard skin print and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I can hear you. So that was just good. But everything I said that night sort of landed. So like, coming off stage, did the 20, did the overrun, came off, and I was like, I've set that up beautifully for Gary, and that's my job when I do the gigs for him. It's not to be the funniest person in the room. It's not to be, obviously I try to do the best performance I can, but I've not done my job if the audience isn't set up right for him. So everything I'm doing is not only to entertain, but it's also to get the house rules explained, get everybody in a good mood, get everybody laughing, get everybody in the right headspace. Make sure nobody's going to fucking heckle him because that'll just fuck up his flow because he does more stories. Whereas I tell like wee short, snappy anecdotes. He wants to go into big, long-winded stories. So, yeah, that was great. But I don't remember much of that afterwards, man. I genuinely don't remember that afterwards. I was 3 sheets to the wind that night. It was a good night.
I think Gary was on stage, and I'm sure he had like a bottle of Buckfast. And he had like a bottle of, I'm sure it's Buckfast and water next to each other. And we were quite near the back. And it was hilarious because he would go to drink, he would take a drink of the Buckfast, and the crowd would just go mad. And then he'd go to take a drink of the water, and everyone would just be slating him. And every time like he went to do it, like it was just like the crowd would just react to just even him just going for water or going for Buckfast. It was hilarious. It was brilliant, honestly.
He's a madman. He's doing 2 of these shows next year. There, and like he's. It's amazing what he's done, and it's amazing what he's continuing to do with it and that. And I think the nicest thing is he's never changed who he is as a person. Yeah, he's just dead down to earth, and he's just mad Gary. But it's like we were saying before the show, he's went and done gas engineering apprenticeship just now because he just couldn't be busy during the pandemic. So he's been out and retrained and stuff like that. And I tell you what, like, credit to him. There's no many people that are that down to earth that they want to keep busy, they want to provide for their family, and they're not going to sit idle. Because he could have done what a lot of comics have done and just said, I'm going to get my self-employment payment after the government, the SICE payment, and just get paid after the government to be on furlough and just sit about and get paid after that. And he didn't. What he did was he was like, I'm going to go, I'm going to retrain, I'm going to build my future for myself. And that. So credit to him. I can see your comments have went off again.
They've got
At
Sarah.
least
That's
you weren't.
Sarah. That's
Liam's saying at least you weren't in the tiny Three Sisters room. It's an actual microwave. Fucking, he's damn right there. You end up with a ball pool of sweat. You know,
Is
if a
that the
bird
one
wants
right
to
at the
do
back?
you, she's going to have to wear a snorkel. It is horrific. It is horrific. Liam's also said I've been told by Chrissy for not laughing at the right time twice. You know, fair enough. Fair enough. Went to a few giving it Aldi's stoned. Liam, that'll do it for you, mate. Some of the live podcast shows that I did shows in Glasgow on a Tuesday night, Liam, at the Yes Bar. And as Liam can tell you, and like, oh, genuinely, they were chaotic. We'd have like live comedy, like 6 acts and a headliner. And the 6 acts would try out new material, and the headliner would be like a pro comic, then the like best 15 or 20 or just fine tuning new material. And that was all the budget could afford. And then we'd have this live podcast show we'd record for YouTube. And I've got the recordings of them, but they're there, but you have to really look for them. Because
I think I found some of them earlier on.
Aye, they're I think the best way to describe them is chaotic. Like, the production values are great. The guys that recorded them did a great job.
Aye.
Fair play to them, Jim and David. They did a brilliant job. But the actual, the shows themselves, fucking diabolical. Because we were just pissed. We were having a laugh. Everybody that was involved in the nights were having a laugh. And it was, I think the crowd got into that. They really enjoyed it. Liam's saying some wild acts. One time actually fell off a seat. Well, there you go. You can't ask for that, can you? You make somebody laugh that much, they're falling off their seat. So, wild nights. And do you know that way? It's the way I look at it is that if you were there, you got to see a really unique experience that even like the videos and YouTube and that can't express, because it was like such a really great live vibe. And it's weird because we tried to stream, although the internet let us down, but we were trying to like live stream gigs at the time. And see the backlash I got off the comedy community, and just people just like, I don't want to do that. How can you live stream material? That'll be the death of comedy. Well, nobody's saying much just now during the pandemic, and you've got live stream shows every fucking weekend. So I think like 4 years ago, I was like trying to innovate and try to do stuff that now has just became the norm. So I'm quite proud of that. But I've got some new ventures that I'm doing that again are like pushing the boundaries for like innovating. And we were talking at the start of this about the restreaming and the simulcasting and that. That's something that, it's weird, you've never had anyone go viral through simulcasting. It's not because simulcasting doesn't work, although I do agree that you should cater to the audience in each platform. I 100% agree on that. But I think it's because the only reason simulcasting doesn't work is because the people that are doing it aren't the ones that are authorities in their field. So if you had like the top person who is the authority for like Dungeons and Dragons, say Critical Role, and they simulcast, then they would blow up more through that. If you had something that was like Football Manager related, it was like DX Football Manager, then that would blow up Call of Duty, whatever. But it's just because the people that are under the authority, like your top 1%, aren't simulcasting. Once they realise the benefits of it, because you do exponentially grow your audiences. I see it for conferencing and stuff like that. I use it for like normal events. And I was like, why don't more people that are streaming do this? But it is what it is. I think time will come where that's the norm, but big platforms don't want you to do it. So like, they're not going to encourage you at all. They can't detect whether you're doing it in their algorithm, which is ironic, but they don't want to encourage streamers to do that because they just want to monopolise. Hence Twitch's affiliate agreement and stuff like that. And I think YouTube's going to go down the same route at some point. You're not going to be able to simulcast in them because they want the content creators to just stick to the one platform. But interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you about your first ever show. How did that go?
My first ever show?
How do you prepare for that? I feel like, obviously, being somebody that's just naturally funny and then trying to put that onto a stage, were you just like, it must have been just traumatic just thinking about it, like...
Do you know what? There's a lot of... it's weird when I think about the writing process now. I would say like the first couple of shows I did, I totally over-obsessed over everything I was saying, and it was shit because of it.
Aye.
Because I may as well have just submitted a script to the compere to read out, because there was no sincerity, there was no genuineness, there was nothing for me there. I was saying what I thought sounded funny, and I was saying that I thought the audience might find funny, instead of saying stuff that I find funny and just going with it and seeing what works. You know, there's a distillation process with it where I'll write stuff and then the next day I'll look at it and I'll go, right, that's no funny. I know that's no funny. There might be an element of it that's made me laugh, but that's not happening. But the other bit is, and then I'd take the other bit and I'd work on that. But when starting out, it was very much a case of I just want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Whereas now, it's I want to make people laugh. That's always going to be the goal. But I want to do it in my unique style, my unique way. And I want people to really enjoy the stories I'm doing. I'm moving away from being as vulgar and as, I wouldn't say combative, but look, you've seen me on stage that if anybody has a go at me, man, I'm firing them right back down. Whereas now I want to just have more of a laugh all the time.
Yeah.
Even if someone's going to be a dick, I'm just going to howl at them and just have more of a buzz. And I think the maturity with the performance side of things has made me realise that there's no need for me to be combative at any point during a performance, regardless of how much someone's been a dick.
Yeah.
Because when I watch other comics, that's the only time I feel awkward, is when they're having an argument with an audience member.
Right, okay.
And I've never really had that, but at the same time, I've been on the boundaries of, I've been quite fucking nasty at times when somebody's heckled me. And I don't think there's any need for it. I would rather just have a laugh with them, and if they can't, shut up. And to be fair, I think by the time you got me at the Armadillo, that's where I was. You know, the last 12 months of doing shows, I was a lot more happier, a lot more chilled out, and a lot more just, we're all going to have a great time. You know, whereas previously in the past, it was like, yeah, said what? All right, okay, cool. I'm going to verbally eviscerate you and wear your self-esteem as a fucking cloak. You know, so it's all good. I'm looking at your chats again, Liam Green Jacket. There was one big guy did deadpan bit recently. I found out a man of my size cannot commit suicide in a caravan. You cannot commit suicide by hanging. Jesus. It's Liam's a dark puppy, isn't he? That's Liam's one memory from a show. He's a dark puppy. Dark. Don't get me wrong, there was light humour during these shows. It wasn't all the suicide banter we dropped after a while. We realised it didn't work. You know. So,
one of the things I did want to ask you about was the hecklers. Have you had a show where it's just been like just relentless, or where it's been really you've just really struggled to deal with, or?
Yeah, definitely. Not recently, not in the last couple of years, thankfully. It's the one night I used to do a gig at the Craig Park Mass. I still do. I'll be doing a solo show there in November at Craig Park Mass, my local club. But all the people I grew up with decided when I was doing my solo show there that they were all going to come along and see me. And I'm not going to lie, it was like they had prepared shit. You know, they were they made me work that night. Like, really made me work. You know, there was like one bit where I was talking about, when I was younger, I was dead shy and all that, and this lassie shouts out, "Were you fuck? You were poking everything," and I'm like, okay, I'm full of shite. Let's start again. You know, so you get humbled by people's honesty, and that harks back to just being genuine and sincere. So I just had to laugh with that and go with it. You know, it's okay. Maybe I wasn't as shy as I thought. Maybe my memory isn't as good as what I thought it was. The only time it's really been done nastily, there was 2 gigs. There was one where, and it always seems to be these fucking charity events, right? And it's why comics do why they charity events, because they don't really give a fuck about you being there. They really don't. And genuinely, I'm a big believer. If I do a charity event, I'll kind of want to do it for free. I don't want to charge for it, because part of me feels like a right heel doing that. But there's some people that take advantage of it. And this is one of these gigs. And it was a horrible gig. And quite acrimonious afterwards. Not with me, but other acts that taking part really didn't enjoy it. Chairs getting thrown, everything else. But that was a gig where I'd hosted it. And I didn't host it. I did like 20 minutes. But the entire 20 minutes I was getting heckled. And that was one of the ones where I just powered through it. Because I was like, no, because I'd seen acts before me get heckled and they tried to engage and they weren't going to win. So I thought, I'll just keep going. But 15 minutes into my 20-minute set, Bits and Pieces comes on for the DJ next door, and I thought, this is done. This is done. I just need to wind this up gracefully and get the fuck off the stage. I've done some other gigs. It's weird. Most of the gigs I do with Gary, like 99.9% of them, are absolutely fine. I've done gigs that could have went bad. Like I did like some Masonic Lodge out in I think it was Larkhall or something, and that was a bear pit, literal bear pit. And I genuinely thought they were going to turn on me. When I did the line, I'm a Kelly fan, you know, I'm a Rangers fan with too much bus fare. And like, there was an awkward like, silence, and then they all laughed. And the only other time I've seen that is now that bit where in Train Spotting we're renting a Sick Boy, you know, do the opening line to their wee ditty in the club, and then it's the silence, and then he goes. And it was a bit like that. Was that funny? Can we all laugh at that? Right, okay, we're all going to laugh at that. Told some IRA jokes that went down brilliantly. They loved that banter. But it's it's weird. It's weird. There's some places. There was a gig I did in Ayrshire as well. Darvel. I will never go back to Darvel. It's it was grim. That was another one that was just get through it. And again, these are charity gigs that you're doing as a favour to a mate. They ask you can come on the bill, and sometimes you just want to try out material and go along for a good night. And it's only when you realise when you arrive there's 200 odd people, they've all paid 20 quid, they've got an expectation of a really good night, you've agreed to do it for free, you're a bit pissed now because you realise they're making about $5,000 and you could have get paid like 40 quid just to cover your train, but no, you wanted to be the good guy. And you're raging because it's like one of the hardest nights work you ever do in your life, and you've done it for fuck all, and you're just at the end of it, you're just quite bitter about it. So yeah.
The most brutal heckle I've ever saw was a woman in the front row, got her makeup out and started very intensively doing her nails, murdered a comic worse than any words.
That's brilliant. Hey, he's right though. Liam's right. See when you get just sheer indifference. See when you get someone that just does not care, and it's not that they hate you, or it's not that they don't like you. It's just they're that bored by the shite you're coming out with that they just start doing other things. You know, like I think people used to say the ultimate one was being the phone, but that's no. It's stuff like that. It's when someone does like their nails, or you know, they start. There was one time I seen a guy during the Fringe, and a guy down the front was just writing stuff, and the comic was like, trying to be like engaged, and he was like, oh shit, this is a reviewer, and you know, and he was like, oh no, it's the Edinburgh Fringe, this guy reviewing, and as he was going, this guy was like obsessively reviewing right down the front row, about 60 odd people in the room. And he turns around to him and he says, you've been writing non-stop there. I take it the review's going to be good. And the guy's like, no, I'm just writing out my last will and testament because I want to fucking top myself after this. And we were guy hadn't heckled, he hadn't said nothing. If the comedian had never said anything to him, that would never have been uttered. But because the guy challenged him, and he could have been writing his shopping list for all we know, but because the comic decided to like have a wee jibe at him for writing, and the guy's like, oh yeah, my last will and testament because you're that shite, I'm ending myself. And I'm like, Jesus, jeez. You know, and that's the most brutal one I've ever seen. And like the guy literally just finished up his set there and then 40 minutes into another show because like the audience were done. We were laughing so hard, right? And we couldn't stop laughing, and he couldn't continue. And the best way to have dealt with that would have just been to laugh with it because it was a belter. But he got really angry and upset.
Oh, did he?
And like, yeah, it was an Australian comic, a bellend. I'm not going to name him, but it was a bellend. And he really took the huff for it, but it was a belter, absolute belter I've ever seen. But the nails one, if that happened to me, I would ignore it. If I seen a lassie in the front row doing her nails, I'd be like, good for you. I'm not bothering you. But I don't see if, unless it's like something you really need to deal with, like it's drawing the other audience members' attention to it. If someone's just going about doing what they want to do, they're at a show and their partner's dragged them along, leave them to it. Don't bother those people. It's the ones that are loud that I want to. It's like, all right, you want to be. It's like one of the guys came to my show and he says, when you come to like comedy shows that you're hosting, Chrissy, you want to be a racehorse, you don't want to be a unicorn. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to stand it. You know, and I was like, nah, fair enough.
Liam's guessing who the person is. I don't actually know who that person is, to be honest. Steve Hughes,
I'm guessing he pure bombed in the monkey bar last week, apparently. I've seen Steve Hughes. I like Steve Hughes. That's it. Could be any name. I'll be honest with you. If any other comics name get put there, I'd be like, I like them. They're fine. You know, Louis C.K. Yeah, I like him. You know, Chris D'Elia, I like him. He's fine. You know, good with him. No, obviously mentioned two notorious sex pests there because obviously it wouldn't be fine. They're cancelled now. He's an Aussie comic who's a conspiracy theorist. Well, fuck him then. Say like anybody's like anti-vax or like any of these like nut jobs, tinfoil hat merchants, I've not got any time for that. Same with right-wing people. Although he didn't ask what comedy you hate, I'm telling you now. Right, see people that are intolerant or are just mental. Like, I don't mean mental as in like funny mental, but see mental as in you're telling people things in bad faith. That can bolt. You know, I've just got no time for that. I tell you what I found weird. I used to like watching occasionally Joe Rogan's podcast, especially the MMA ones, because he was interviewing fighters I really liked.
Yeah.
And I can't listen to Joe Rogan now. I just can't. And I haven't been able to since the start of this lockdown last year because the shite he comes out with about the coronavirus and that. And I'm just like, because he's got such a platform. I wouldn't say this for most people with a podcast, but like, if you have such a platform where you influence whole large demographics of people, you need to be really careful about what you're putting out there at times. And he's been super irresponsible with his shite that he's come out with. And had to pan him for that. And Liam's saying that I pure hate Rogan and I love MMA. Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those things where I actually quite like his commentary for like the UFC. But like, I can't listen to like his podcast. I can't listen to him on his podcast. And he's another one that, you know, it's weird, man. I think you get like confirmation bias where you want to have people around you that agree with the same shit you think with. So a lot of the guests he has on are absolute weapons. And it's like you get like 5 minutes into the show, and I used to love the MMA stuff. I genuinely, when he would do like the watch along shows for MMA and that, I'd be like quite into that because it'd be like interviewing fighters and stuff and chatting away to them. But even then it's like every show has this mad agenda about coronavirus, and you're like, okay, Joe, we've now reached the tipping point of you being a bam. And don't get me wrong, there's other things that he says that makes him out to be a bam, but that's the one where I was like, right, okay, we've hit a limit here. There's a red line.
Stu's actually led us on quite well to the next question. One of the things I wanted to ask you, and we'll lead it on to Stu's question, was who is the sort of comedian that you look up to? So I don't know if there's maybe one just now or one when you started out. And Stu's asking, who do you think is the best up and coming comedian?
Right, when I started out, I'll give you a very honest answer, and you might not know who they are, and that's perfectly fine. When I was starting out, there was guys like Chris Henry and Alan Park in Glasgow who were like localised comedians that were really good. And I just really admired their performance. Big Gary Little, who's a reasonably big name in Scottish comedy. I've always really admired Gary's ability to perform. Des McLean, again, Susie McCabe, people that are Scott Agnew is like one of the best fucking comedians I've ever seen. Stu Hu was like my idol, like comedy idol. Stu Hu, he doesn't gig anymore, but Stu Hu was amazing. My absolute, like, in the circuit, let's stand up. If there was one act I would go pay to see, it'd be Tom Stade.
Yeah.
Who's a Canadian comic based in the UK. I'm actually quite proud, because a lot of the guys, proud to say this, but a lot of the guys I started out with, that I would love to say I'm reasonably pally with, like I can chat to and say hello to, and or I would consider friends. Guys like Chris MacArthur Boyd, Roscoe McClellan, Steve Buchanan, Mark Jennings. There's a whole host of comedians that that I sort of started out with at the same time with.
Yeah.
That I really enjoy watching, and that's great. It's weird being able to say, right, these are people that I would genuinely go and pay money to go see. Yeah. Really enjoy. Gary Meikle, Gary Falls are obviously givens. The one I'll mention, and I may feel very bad for saying this because she's like my pal and I hate prefacing this, right? The best up and coming comedian in my opinion is Rachel Jackson, who I work with and I gig with quite a lot. And I have no shame in saying that, because yes, she is one of my best pals, but at the same time, I've never seen anyone so effortlessly go into any room, no matter what's going on in the room, no matter how crazy, chaotic it is. She could do anything from a nursing home to a room of bikers, right? She is so talented. And her talent is just, you can see she's just at the stage where it's just about to take off.
Aye.
and it will in the next couple of years. I've no doubt about that. Absolute stick on. Susan Riddle, who's Rachel's friend, who's also a very talented comedian. She's really good as well. Susan's exceptionally good. But yeah, starting out, I think like Alan Park was like a local comic in Glasgow that I really liked. And I really like when Alan was like doing his stuff, and he does like dad jokes and stuff like that as well, right? But it was one of those ones where there used to be like a gong show in Glasgow in the State Bar, and Alan would win it quite a lot of the times because he would just go on stage and it'd be a rowdy Glaswegian crowd, and Alan nailed it for that crowd every time. And I loved it. I really liked it. And a guy, Chris Henry, was really like quite good formatively starting out, because he would give me like really good honest advice, and sometimes you just need honest advice to tell you that you're shit. And Chris would, not in a nasty way, but like he
Like
was
a feedback way to
hosting
make it better.
Aye,
Yeah.
he was hosting mics and open mic nights, and he would just come round and say, "Look, that wasn't great. Change that." And he would ask for feedback. He wouldn't just volunteer it, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like very, very honest. And I always appreciate that. I always appreciate him. Stu, who is a legend of Scottish comedy, he was one of the guys in the Funny Farm back in the day. Him, Bruce Morton, a few others, and just watching him as a new act, starting out at the very, very start, my mind was just blown by how good he was. Him and Gary Little. Stu's one of those ones where, when I was talking earlier about how just be the pals with the audience.
Aye.
And that's how it was like my mindset's like, if I can be a tenth as good as Stu was at just making the audience their best pal, then I'll have a career out of this.
Aye.
In terms of just the audience and just smashing it at the park, Gary Little, I don't think you'll see a comedian like Gary Little anywhere that just goes on stage and just boom knocks out the park the way Gary Little does. It is impressive. My favourite comedian though, is Tom Stade. Like Tom Stade cracks me up. I can't not watch Tom Stade and not just be absolutely buckled by Tom Stade. I've seen Tom Stade 5 or 6 times, and it ends me. I see Stu saying Daniel Sloss. Funnily enough, Daniel Sloss is my son's favourite comedian. I really like Daniel Sloss as well. I don't know him. I know lots of people that do know him, but I don't really know Daniel Sloss. And never gigged with him. Been to gigs where he's performed, but I don't know him to say hi to. If he's seen me in the street, he would never fucking clue who I was. But I really like Daniel Sloss's comedy as well. But my boy was wanting to watch stand-up comedy, and I thought, do you want to know what? Here's a really good voice for someone his age to listen to, 13, 14. Because not only is Daniel Sloss really dark and quite funny and quite edgy in a way that kids that age would fucking probably appreciate, but also says some really good things about like guys and behaviour and everything that I don't think's a bad thing for kids his age to hear. You know? So yeah, he loves fucking Daniel Sloss. He's watched it with his mum and stuff like that, and just watched his mum recoil in horror, no doubt, at some of the material. Daniel Sloss really skill, but Tom Stade for me is just awesome. He's like my favourite act. Scott Agnew's really great as well when he's on form, is just sublime. And Stu Hu, Chris Henry, Alan Partner starting out, I just looked up to and I was like, they are pretty amazing. And Rachel Jackson's best up and comer, no shadow of a doubt. I feel bad saying up and comer for her because like she's already established, she's headlining gigs and stuff like that, so maybe I need to revise that. Who is the best up and comer? Connor Burns is pretty good. I've seen Connor Burns. There's a young lad, Connor Burns, who I really rate, and I think will go far because he has everything in place to do so.
Is he Glasgow based?
I think Edinburgh based.
Is it?
Might be. Do you know, it's good that I can't even tell you where he's based. I can just tell you he's good.
Aye.
That's a good sign. So it means his accent isn't overtly one or the other. He's neither East or West Coast. But Connor strikes me. I seen Connor and I was like a wee bit blown away by just how good and comfortable he was on the mic, and he wasn't rattled. And when you see a new act starting out like that, Amelia Baylor, in fact, I'll revise that. Connor's great. Amelia Baylor is pretty damn amazing as well, as is Kimmy Loudon. They're both up, you could call them up and comers, but they're respected in the comedy industry, both of them, both Kimmy and Amelia. And both great. Both been on TV, the BBC and stuff like that, and will no doubt be quite a lot of the time as well. I'm just looking at your comments. Catherine Bohart going to go stratospheric this year, no doubt. Not so up and coming. Yeah, Roscoe, most creative Twitch streamer I'm aware of. Yeah, Roscoe's great.
He's fantastic.
I've chatted to Ross a couple of times about streaming and stuff like that. And yeah, I love what Roscoe's doing. I watched what Roscoe's doing, and then I was like, he was one of the reasons I just stopped streaming, because I was like, do you want to know what? He's doing everything that I would like to see. So really it's good. Like, from like a comedy perspective, I'm not going to top that. So I'm a great believer in just enjoying other people's great creativity.
Yeah.
And I just love what Roscoe's doing. Roscoe knows how I feel, and I've DM'd him and sent him some I wouldn't say cringe-worthy, but I've told Roscoe exactly how great I think he is. I think he's worried that I'm going to suck him off and it's going to see him off. But yeah, shocking and mission up and coming down Vlad McTavish, that's a joke. Vlad McTavish has been kicking about for a while, and again is an incredibly skilled comedian. I've got a lot of time in the world for Vlad. Vlad helped me out with my uni dissertation, answering questions about the comedy industry that nobody else would be able to. Because he's got experience at running festivals and events and stuff like that, and just truly wonderful gentleman. Katie Twitchard, on the up to, never heard of Katie Twitchard. I'm probably a terrible person for that. I'm going to burn. And Stu's asked, do you think it's harder for a comedian to make it as opposed to a musician, say? Although you do have a YouTube that exposes is slightly different. Aye, I'll answer that. Well, first of all, what do you think? What do you think is easier for a musician or a comedian? Just in your general opinion.
Are you asking me or Stu?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I'd probably say a comedian, to be honest. I think musicians, you've got a lot of different platforms that can come up. I think, I don't know, I feel like, and I might be wrong here, but, and you can tell me if this is like wrong or not, but comedians, is it not almost like you're kind of fighting for spots a bit more, where musicians, I feel like do they maybe build each other up a wee bit more? I don't know if you would agree with that, but I would probably say if I'd have a guess, I would probably say easier for musicians.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a fair point. Comedians, I'm going to say fight for spots. I'd say that comedy's quite good in the fact where it's a really natural meritocracy. So I'm not going to sit in the fence in this. I'm going to tell you pros and cons as to why for both, right? It's easy to be a comedian because if you've got the talent, you'll rise to the top. Unless you're a dick to people off stage or online, or you say horrible things that just are unconscionable to other people, you're I can't even spell that, never mind fucking working business. Scrabble, unconscionable. Is that even a word? I've made that up there. I would say that making it as a comedian is easier because it's a clear meritocracy. If you're good enough, you will make it. And if you're good enough, you work hard and you're consistent at it, you'll make it. Every single comedian I know that's a professional comic is there deservedly. There's no one in the comedy industry that's an amazingly good talent that's not made it. There just isn't.
Yeah.
I'm where I'm at in my comedy career just now. Absolutely, I am where I deserve to be because I've not put the work in that others have, and I went to uni and I've done events and stuff like that. I'm pretty confident my time will come from this September onwards. Very, very confident I'll be focusing a lot more on comedy and just the event side of things, and I'll be... I mean, one of the reasons I've not streamed that much or done anything online is because I'm worried about bringing my uni into disrepute.
Yeah.
So I'm very careful about what I say and what I put online because I don't... Not that I think I'm going to say anything dodgy or anything, but if I do doing like shows and streaming and get in podcast guests, you don't know what other people are going to say, and I would really be very cagey about doing like comedy content with others until I can like filter everything. So as much as I love live streaming, that's how I've been like, taking a big step back for that. But I'm pretty confident from September onwards, once live gigs start up, my time will be then because I know exactly what I want to do. I've got a great new hour. So like comedy's great because it's a meritocracy. If you've got the talent and you have the work ethic, and those two, you can't have one without the other. You know, and you can have the talent and the work ethic, and then the third element of that is you need to be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So although I believe in my talent, not many people do, but I believe in my talent, right? I've not put the work in and I've not put myself out there. So that's why I don't have hundreds of thousands of views and I don't have millions of subscribers and all of that, because I've not done the other two elements of it. I've done a little bit of both, but nowhere near enough to justify any sort of traction.
Yeah.
That's hugely comforting to me, because I would be really fucking upset if I had put the work in and I had put myself out there and nothing had came of it. And if I ever get to that juncture, that's when I think, right, maybe I should just, see if McDonald's are hiring just now, you know what I mean? Because I clearly need to think up, and I might just stick to doing the events. Music, I know a lot of people in the music industry, that music is a really hard problem just now. Now, it's easier to go viral, I think, with music, and it's easy to do well putting your music out there as content, because you can't listen to a joke twice, but you can listen to your favourite song twice in the one day and it's no problem. Whereas you're not going to laugh twice at the same joke no matter how good it is, because after you've heard it, you know what's coming the second time. You know what I mean? So like, comedy's different from that extent, where if you have to be really careful. That's why a lot of comedians do game shows, and that's why a lot of comedians do presenting, because they can be funny but they're not burning their material that they've worked on. Because coming up with material, if you can come up with 5 minutes of new material every week, and then put that together, that's your hour. Or a minute every week, that'll be your new hour. But really, to get that minute every week, you need to write a really good 5 minutes and then condense it down.
Bring it down,
You know, because you really need to road test with 5-6 hours of material to get a good hour. You know, and if you put that out every year on YouTube, you're just burning that. You know, so you have to be really. That's how you see comedians, and you go see a comedian do 20 minutes, and the next year they're doing a slightly different 20 minutes. It's because they've been really economical about how they burn the material. Me and Gary are at the stage now where anything that you've seen at the Three Sisters, you might have seen at the armadillo bits of it, but when you go and see us again, you'll never see any of that, because our materials had its shelf life of 2 years, and we told ourselves, right, we'll do that material for 2 years, and then after it's burned. So everything you see us do when you go and see us again will be completely new, because that cycle's happened. And I think it's so much harder for comics to go viral that way, because the only way you can go viral is with your older material, because you don't want to burn through your new stuff. And plus, comedians also need other platforms to make them go viral, so they need to either record themselves at a gig, or they need to be on TV, or they need some other platform to do it. It's not going to be their natural performance that does it. It needs to be like through another medium. Whereas music, you can just record the performance and then it goes. But yeah, I think it just is what it is. It's hard. It's hard going. Well, let's see in the comments here. That's a good point. That's probably how many talented musicians just haven't managed to get a breakthrough for whatever reasons. Name 3 successful black female comedians UK. Either it's not entirely about merit, or they're just too funny black women in the UK. Right, here, my point, right, and I get the point he's making there, right, and his point he's making is that there's people with a certain platform, that he's basically stating that there's people with certain demographics that are not getting a push, right? What I'll say that is, you probably are making a very valid point there, Liam, right? And there's no point me naming 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 female black comedians, because I get your point, and I'm not going to have that argument with you, because it is a valid point. You know, you could, but the issue there is that it's a meritocracy, probably from my element of perspective and my privilege. So maybe I should amend that from my viewpoint. It's a meritocracy. I would say that comics, I genuinely do believe it is a meritocracy. Now, is there going to be things that hold people back? Possibly. Is there things in TV where they only want people of given a certain distinct voice, and then, they maybe pigeonhole people to represent a certain demographic or geopolitical perspective? That maybe is a problem. Like I'll give you another one, Liam. Name how many female Scottish comedians are on TV. There's no many. So Fern Brady, Janie Godley.
Fern Brady's phenomenal, eh?
Hey, look, there's 30 odd female Scottish comedians that are great, right? I could give you a whole list. Again, I'm not going to, right? I would say at the top 10 Scottish comics, at least 6 of them are women, right? But are they all on TV? No, they're not. Now, for whatever reason, I have to believe in my industry that if you have the talent and you work hard and you put yourself out there, you'll get the rewards. Now, if someone's not being successful, I would say it's down to one of those three things, and maybe luck is the other one. Maybe luck's the fourth factor. You know, I can't comment for individual comics not making it, but yeah, I do agree. Like, for example, you're not going to have another comedian that goes out and do a similar style of Jimmy Carr getting put on the same show as Jimmy Carr. You know what I mean? Because you know, comics seem to get pigeonholed into a certain style of delivery.
Yeah.
You know, or do they represent, you know, disabled, dysphoria? Do they represent LGBT plus? You know, and all this stuff, and it's nonsense. I would like to think that that's back in the day, that perspective. But again, he makes a valid point. It's like, you know, there is areas that are completely underrepresented. But it's a conversation to have. It's not a conversation that comedy should shy away from. I think it's really, 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 really important that you do chat about these things and you're open and transparent about it. I can only just say from my perspective that I think it's down to hard work, I think it's down to talent, and I think it's about putting yourself out there and maybe a wee bit of luck to sprinkled on top of those three.
Yeah,
because if I don't believe that, then I'm just going to be paranoid and bitter about not getting ahead or other people not getting ahead. You know, and I wouldn't like to think that. Music, I think, is slightly different. I think people maybe do help each other out a wee bit more and build each other up.
Yeah.
And that is because music's less... It's weird. I would say music's less professional. Comedians, once they reach a certain level, are competing for paid work.
Yeah.
Whereas musicians tend to build up their own brand.
Yeah.
Whereas comedians are working for brands.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm going to the Stand Comedy Club, or I'm going to the Monkey Barrel, or I'm going to Breakneck Comedy or the Comedy Store, and I'm working for that brand. I'm a comic that's a part of that brand.
Yeah.
So I'm competing for a spot to be in that brand. Whereas those musicians are a brand in themselves, putting themselves out there. You know.
I think the conversation that Liam's having there is probably a wider society issue as well, isn't it? You could have that discussion with sports, you could have a discussion with many things. I don't think it's so
how many black football managers do we have? We had Kevin Hart in Scotland, with Alex Dyer come on up recently. But I mean, again, there's the question that gets put forward about like UK Asian footballers. You know, it's like 7% of the country's, you know, Asian dysphoria, like background is like second, third generation Southeast Asian, but you know, less than, like, I think it's 0.1% of professionals are for that background. You know, so yeah, there's underrepresentation. Am I intelligent enough to state why that's the case across the board? No, I'm not. Is it because there's maybe some shenanigans and things that are not right morally or ethically? Possibly. You know, but I would state that two guys that like getting drunk playing FM and have a bit of banter are the your ones to solve these woes. But fair play, Liam, put the questions out there. We'll give it a go. Next, Palestine and Israel. Who will win? No, no, it's fair to ask these things, but it's like, please be aware of. We're aware of yous if you're having the interest in their thoughts. But please also be aware of the fact that we're two fucking idiots that like Football Manager and gassing. You know, we are not going to have the answers to some of these things.
Definitely.
You know.
So you've mentioned a few names there that myself I know and I really enjoy. So the two Garys, obviously, that you say you started out with. Mark Jennings, again, very, very good comedian and doing a lot of telly work. Rachel, that you mentioned there, I only actually recently discovered Rachel purely because of you as well. So do you know, a couple of weeks ago you done a live video on Rachel's Instagram, and that's when I actually discovered Rachel. But some of the people you've mentioned there are just phenomenal comedians. Have you learned quite a lot for these people, or do you try and use them to make yourself better? Or
I've learned nothing from them in the kindest way possible. The ones I start out with, I've not learned anything from, apart from the work ethic and having talent and putting yourself out there. The two Garys have that in common. Mark Jennings has that in common. CMP, Roscoe put themselves out there. They're successful. They work hard. They've got talent. You know, all of them. They all have that commonality to them. They also, some of them, have worked out how to be super successful by becoming an authority, comedy-wise, on a certain area. You know, so each of them has their own wee unique selling point to the audience that marks them out for who they are.
Yeah.
From the older comics I mentioned, the likes of Stu, we've not got long enough to talk about how much I've learned from him.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I have like it's weird. I have like a Word document of like useful information, and then I have a Word document of useful information I've taken for other comics that I pass on to any comics I ask to start out that I'll give them.
Okay.
And it's weird, like the amount of information that I've taken for like Chris Henry, Stu Hu, Jojo Sutherland, promoters as well, people like Alan Donaldson and stuff like that. There's lots of people involved in comedy that maybe might not be on stage but are like in the periphery that know comedy really well, that give good advice as well. There's bar staff at places like The Stand and stuff like that can just be very honest with you in the way a fellow comic wouldn't be, and say that was great or that was shit, you know. So punters as well. The punters, I think your best judge of whether you're funny or not is whether the punters are laughing.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so yeah, but I'd say watching like I don't know about Stu Hu, learning for like the older generation of comics and seeing their level of performance and the consistency in that performance, and then them being gracious enough to explain how they do it or to go into it. Michael Redmond's another one in Glasgow. He'd been on Father Ted. He was Father Stone, Father Ted, and he's another one that when you're in a room with these people, you don't talk, you just sit back and listen.
Yeah.
Because everything they're saying, even if it isn't about comedy and performance, is generally either really funny or they're passing on fucking wisdom and you just want to sponge it all in.
Like,
you know?
Take it.
But the only thing I've learned from my contemporaries is that those three things are consistent. You work hard, you've got talent, and you put yourself out there. And maybe work out what your unique selling point is and, you know, be the authority on that. But that's the same for anything. Doesn't matter whether you're doing comedy or you're doing anything else. If you're not the authority, or even like comedy terms, if you're not uniquely known or stand out for being uniquely you, then you're never going to genuinely break out there.
No, 100%.
You know,
yeah.
There needs to be something about you that sets you out for the rest. And it's the same with streaming and everything else as well. You need to have a very unique flavour of what you do that makes people go, that's you. Because if you have the other three and then you have that, then that's your golden ticket.
Yeah,
and you will make it.
Completely agree. I think you see a lot of people on the streaming platforms, and you're not going to watch the one person that says the same thing as the next person. You want that one person that's going to do something slightly different, especially when even FM. I mean, I don't think there's a if you compare that to maybe like a FIFA streamer, there's not a massive number of FM streamers in comparison, but even that, there's still lots of people on at the same time, similar to anything else you would do, that you need to stand out to be able to get people to watch you. So I definitely agree.
I think a sign of a good comedy club and a good comedy night is that you see different voices that are on. So if you go to a comedy night or you see a comedy night advertised and it's 4 middle-aged white males on performing, I don't care how different their sets are, you're getting the same, generally you're going to get the same perspective on things. It's just, you know, and audiences like different voices. I can say this from a promotion point of view. I would never book a lineup like that unless all 4 were completely distinct in who they were and were completely different in who they were. And that was a learning process for me when I was doing the promoting years ago, is working out, right, how are these people different and how do they fit in a lineup? So for example, if I was booking an ideal lineup, it would all depend on the night. So if I was booking like alternative comedy and I had an audience that were going to sit and listen, maybe a midweek gig, the 2 acts that I would book 9 times out of 10 would be Roscoe and Amelia.
Yeah.
Because really intelligent, really funny, really wacky, out there comedy. They experiment, they'll try stuff, they'll do whatever they can. But I could also book them for the weekend. Yeah, I could. But it depends the type of audience. Would I want them in front of a rowdy audience? No, not because they can't deal with rowdy audiences, both of them can easily, but would people that are drunk and pissed appreciate somebody that's giving something really innovative and out there and a brilliant experience? It's unique. No, they probably wouldn't they? So you make sure that you book acts that fit the audience, you know, and you don't waste talent as well. You want to give talent a showcase. You want to give talent the best opportunity to go out there. Now, Roscoe and Amelia can play any room they like because they're talented comics, but I would want them in front of the right audience on a Saturday night, you know. So I would want them in front of an audience that's going to appreciate them. Would I book them in front of a bunch of stag doos and people that are on vouchers and stuff like that? No, could I? Yeah, I could, because they would just change their act, but it
Aye.
would be as great as the stuff they would normally do. And it might not be, and that's, you got to think about it. Saying that Roscoe's bloody sublime. Roscoe's one of those ones. He's like Rachel, where you could put him into a room. Same with Amelia as well. You could put him into a room where it's bikers or an old folks home. They're going to make people laugh no matter what. There's a whole generation coming through of comedians now that are so bloody talented.
Yeah.
But I think everyone's got their audience, and you want to find the right audience for the right comics. It's the same reason why you might have some really brash, really vocal comics that really love rowdy rooms.
Yeah.
Put them in a midweek show where they've not got that energy, and it's going to fall completely flat.
We've got into the hot tub chat and the chat.
Yeah. Kurt's Hot Tub Comedy Show, and it's on 4 a.m. No, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah.
I think,
and Liam makes a really good point about Gary Delaney. People think he's generic, but he's not. He's very specific delivery style in his class, yeah. And it is, and Gary Delaney no doubt has worked on that, and very specific type of writing and delivery. So yeah it's it can be hard going, but yeah, hot tubs, man. This is why I've got the light behind me. We're stripping off later, and I'm going to get the bubbles going and
changed it
we'll
to
get
red.
it going. It's weird when I clicked on Twitch today to get your channel, and it's like fucking Pokemon and Amaranth for getting punted to you
Right, the
before
top.
you've signed in, and you're thinking, really, is this Twitch? Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I'm a wee bit worried. I'm a wee bit worried that Twitch is going to go down the pan, and it's a great platform. But I'm worried just because I can see where this is going with regulation, and I can see, especially in the States and the UK, going, well, what's the barriers for children getting access to this? There's sod all. Right, well, we're not having essentially soft porn getting punted at Wayne's, because it's some of the stuff you're seeing here is just chatbait, isn't it? It's ridiculous. It's one level down for Babe Station, and I do worry at 2 a.m. that my internet records will get shown and laid up on some national website.
Like, there's been a lot of discussions about this recently, and to be fair, we could probably do a whole podcast just on that in itself, to be honest. Because
I'm a great believer in people are allowed to earn money as long as they're no harming others, and if they're no harming people, then fair play to them. But there is a point where here's a thing that you're not allowed to say anymore, and I'm going to say it, right? But I wouldn't want to be the person I'm dating doing it, And it's like, oh yeah, and these women are dead empowered, they're making money, and I'm like, right, women being empowered is those that are going and making the best careers of their life, and they're in control and have agency of their life. Are these women doing that? To an extent, yes. But at the same time, they're also kicking about in bikinis and thongs and showing off their bits, basically because they're preying on sad males, possibly those that kind of get their whole ever. So can we not just as society accept that it's pure market forces? They are supplying a service to sad bastards that procure that service, and both aren't covering themselves in glory, but that's fine. If that's what they want today, then that's cool. But it's a wee bit sleazy, and I think we all just need to go, that's exactly what it is. It's a wee bit sleazy. Didn't anybody be taking the moral high ground? Your audience are creepy bastards. You're enabling them to be creepy bastards, and you're monetising them being creepy bastards. Fair play to you in that, but it is a bit fucking creepy. And, and this is, I always laugh, it's like the OnlyFans culture that's come out now, right? But and I get it, man. Lockdowns happen. People can't go out and work. There's people that can't go out, and they're like, I'm just going to show off pictures of my feet, and then that escalates to showing your vag and everything. And look, if you want to do that, then that's your own personal choice. But what I think people should say to these women is it's the internet. Nothing ever gets deleted, and
true.
unfortunately, no matter the best intentions you have, that shit will eventually come and bite you in the arse. 10, 20, 30 years time, dealing with Waynes and everything else. And yeah, I think some people are putting themselves out there and they're being exploited and they don't realise it, and they probably think they're making a wee turn, but what they're actually doing is selling a part of themselves that they maybe didn't want to sell,
Yeah.
you know, and will regret later on in life, you know. But again, it's weird because I don't see that as empowerment. I see that as the patriarchy just spinning an our wheel on it. Because who's the major consumers of all this shit is guys, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, and we're not going into too much, but it's kind of intelligent for these people, because you talk about like unique selling points and what makes people watch these people. If you look at these streams, they are getting the highest number of views. See, if no one was watching it, they wouldn't be doing it. So really the issue isn't with the person that's
100%.
doing it, it's the people that's watching it, because they're the one that's making the people go to the top of the views because they're watching. So
well, this is it. But I just think there needs to be a little bit of an honesty about it, you know, and there needs to be more transparency and a more honest discussion about it, because it is an easy, as Stu says, it's an easy way to make money and everyone is welcome to that. But I don't think there's any regulation in place that protects young people, and that's my main concern, if I'm being honest. I've got a 14-year-old son who, you know, God forbid I ever check his internet search history at any point, and he'll be cool, he's raised well. But it's like, I do worry about children in that environment,
definitely.
because you read. I was reading an article on BBC the other day, and it was about a mother found that her daughter had been selling stuff on OnlyFans. And can you imagine, as a parent, I'm just thinking, how horrendous is that? Because then that kid needs to deal in our local area with maybe some creepy shit, and that's never going to leave their mind. That's always going to be in the background, and I'm like, there really needs to be more stringent regulation with this sort of thing. And
definitely.
if we're going to have sex work, which is what it is, if we're going to have sex work out there, it needs to be regulated. It can't just be the Wild West, because that's where illegality comes into it. That's where people aren't protected, and that's where the problems. I've got nothing against people doing this stuff, but I do worry about the fact that there's fuck all regulation with regards to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah. The guy in his early 20s used to go to lap dancing bars. Fucking hypocrite. My since been a parent, hasn't happened.
Excellent. So the next thing I want to talk to you about, we'll move off comedy, because I think we could probably talk about that all night, to be honest. I want to talk about football, purely because you are a Kelly fan. So I would just want to ask you what's your thoughts on Kelly this season? I've not watched them much, bearing in mind my team's in the league below, so I can't say much, but
no comment. Podcast over. Nice chat to you. See you later. What was it you asked?
What's your thoughts on them? What's happened this season? I thought, I mean, you look back, was it 2-3 years ago they were sitting third, fourth in the league, and now they're going down. I just feel like they're too big a team to be going down, but I just don't know what's happened.
No team's too big to go down. No team's too big to go down. It's been humbling. I tell you, that's what it's been. It's been humbling. Did you not speak to Ben Grant about this the other day? Could you know I've got dealt the trauma with him, for God's sake?
They weren't relegated by the time we spoke.
Oh, damn. No, do you know what? It's weird. I've not engaged in any sort of football-related forums in years, and I went on a few Kelly forums to vent my spleen the past week or so, because I'm fucking angry. Really, really angry at the mismanagement of our club to get to this stage.
Yeah, definitely.
2 really bad managerial appointments have led us here. Tommy Wright, I think, can be excluded from that because he just didn't have enough time to fix it.
Yeah.
The one player they did bring in, Kyle Lafferty, did a good job for us. But this is what's going to happen if you're in a bad situation like that, and the vast majority of the team, like 90% of the team, are all at a contract at the end of the year. They know they're all probably moving on as well. There's no desire to put yourself out there. You're not going to get people making a last gap tackle to, you know, prevent a goal getting in case you get injured. And it is what it is. We were due a relegation. There's not many Kilmarnock fans that will thank me for that, but relegation was long overdue for us. When I started supporting Kelly, it was just before Tommy Burns took over. We were in the old bottom division.
Did he manage? I didn't realise he managed him.
Yeah, so I had the joys of going to see Kelly come up through the leagues. And, you know, my first Kelly game was Kelly versus Meadowbank Thistle in Edinburgh. Aye. At the Meadowbank Stadium. There was like 200 fans, most of them Kelly fans. And yeah, I think we lost as well. But yeah, I grew up with the likes of Ali Mitchell and Gus McPherson and Tom Black and Bobby Geddes and, you know, Bobby Williamson up front and Tommy Burns taking us through the leagues, and
Bobby
we
Wilson, was that
survived.
the ex-Hibs manager?
Ex-Celtic manager Tommy Burns.
No, the
Bobby
Bobby
Williamson,
Wilson.
the ex-Hibs manager,
Aye.
yeah. Yeah, he was a player and then player manager at Killie. He won the
Aye.
Scottish Cup with Killie as player manager. One of my happiest days. I got to see Killie win the Scottish Cup in Glasgow at Ibrox because Hampden was getting refurbed in
Aye.
'97. And that night got to see a band called the Foo Fighters at the Barrowlands.
Oh,
The fucking
class, eh?
Barrowlands. On the same day.
That's
So that was a
Sunday.
good day. But yeah, no, we've been due relegation. We've been in the league since Tommy brought us up. 1993, I think it was. And to have survived so long without going down, we had some ropey years. And yeah, it is what it is. I'm looking at your chat comments. Don't even claim the best pie in the country anymore. Blame Gordon Sawyers. Hey, look, I tell you what, right? I cannot stand that man. Seriously. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Don't know what that is.
Right. It's a Killie fan that.
Oh no, I do. The boy that goes nuts in that in the videos.
Aye.
Aye,
And I'm just like. The thing is, he's got a son as well, and I'm just thinking, how cringeworthy is that? Like, seriously, like, you've got to face your bear. And I'm really careful about what I put out there because I'm aware of the fact that my son's going to grow up and have access to the internet
See
and all
it online.
facets of it. So, like, if I'm putting something online, it's because I'm 100% at peace with it.
Aye.
But imagine going online every week and having a mad rant and embarrassing yourself, and it's like for 15 minutes of fame, but it's not even good fame, it's notorious, it's infamy. Everybody thinks you're a walloper, you know, and I think other Killie fans seen his antics and were just like, for fuck's sake. It's almost like that Arsenal TV thing, you know, where other fans go to look at it because they're making clowns of themselves over Arsenal. And it's not because we're like, oh, this is really engaging content. No, yous are ranting and losing your shit about your team. We like that. Fuck you. You know, and I think a lot of it was that as well. He get chucked out of a game once and his son was just tagging along behind him. Yeah, it's pretty grim. I think if you are a parent, you have a responsibility to do right by your kid, and part of that is how you conduct yourself in public. And yeah, I don't know him, but I really dislike him for what I've seen. He just comes across as a total bam. And I'm really again, if we say what you put there in public, if anyone knows Gordon Sawyers, I'm really fucking comfortable with me thinking he's a bam. Feel free to tell him, and if I ever see it in my game, I'll be like, by the way, you're a bit of a bam. You know, I'm leaving backing up what you say. If you ever meet someone, just say, look, with all due respect, you're a bit of a wet. Go and stop making a cunt of yourself and making your team the point of ridicule. Because like Killie fans don't mind getting beat, right? We don't mind getting beat. What we don't like is the memes about getting beat. I mean, it's one thing getting your arse handed to you every week. It's another thing then seeing your arse getting handed to you and then one of your supporters or fellow supporters getting the piss ripped at them, which then means you're getting the piss ripped at you as well. You know? Although I have to admit, right, the meme game for the Old Firm fans the last couple of weeks has been quite good. But there's people that have created it now. Steve Clark did the infamous Bye Bye Rangers thing.
Yeah.
And it's someone changed the audio and it was like, Bye Bye Killie. I mean, I'm all aboard that. You know, we deserve that as a support. That level of banter, I am all about. And I wish there was more of that. I wish football fans could go back to just absolutely leveling each other with banter without any maliciousness, without any hatred. Because that used to happen in Scotland. And I think football forums have created a really bad culture where everybody gets entrenched, especially individual club ones. I think forums like Pie and Bovril are really good, pieandbovril.com, because that brings fans of different clubs together and it means they can have more of a laugh. I think individual club forums are toxic sumps because then everybody just...
same opinions.
You end up with, all it is going to be negativity. Nobody's going on a forum to celebrate most of the time. Most of them are going on the forum to have a right good gun about stuff. And yeah. Okay, see your comments. You, sir, are a bam and a fanny. Yeah, Liam, Exactly. Liam says an East Stirling fan. I read a really good book about East Stirling, Pointless it was called. Can't remember the author, I feel bad, Graham somebody. But I would recommend if you like football, doesn't matter if you like Scottish football or not, look out for this book, Pointless. You'll probably get it on Amazon. It is a brilliant book about East Stirling just being shite for the entire season and just how the people involved in the club deal with it. But it's just such luminaries such as Mark Ferry and Gordon Park, who's since been a journalist and that. But it's a really, really good book because it's just, if you like Football Manager and lower league management, it's just the description of the despair and just how shite it is when you've got no money, you've got virtually no fans, you've got nothing, and it just describes the bleakness. They had Alex Ferguson for a season and wouldn't back him.
Oh, really?
You know, that says all about East Stirling. People don't know about that. They all think he started at St Mirren. He didn't. East Stirling, Alex Ferguson started at it. You know, so yeah, brilliant. Anyway, plug for him. I hope we should get the fucking Amazon affiliate link in there, mate. There's 11 people buying that. And then I've seen Stu's asking, do you think Rangers and Celtic fans are too busy trying to win each other rather than celebrating their own success? I'm bored of it now. What about you? What do you think about that? I think it's always been like that though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think similar to what you say. I think when you've got like fans and stuff fighting with each other, and that, I don't like to see it. I think when it's friendly banter, like the teams having a laugh at each other, I like to see that. I like when you go on Twitter and like people, like you say, are posting memes and having a laugh with each other, but it starts to turn violent and stuff. And this obviously wasn't against each other, but like Celtic fans like hitting their team bus and that, when it gets to that level, it's just too much. But I think I do like the banter, but I think it often goes past that, which is where it's just too much, I think.
Saying you like the banter, just check your recent comment and your Twitch.
He's an Aberdeen fan, G, okay, aye.
Yeah, Aberdeen fans no caring.
Also, Man City got beat the other night. Was it last night? Last night as well, which was fantastic. So I will avoid my teams.
I love Liam Greenjackets. One of my first friends in Glasgow when I arrived was played for East Stirling. What's their name? Because I guarantee you the Football Managers fans in here will know exactly who that player is, no matter how shite they are. And yes, it's got more since have returned. I think he's referring to Rangers. Stephen Oates, yeah, he get transfer window, left-sided central midfielder. He's at MLC. I can tell you that right away. He get hunted. He wasn't one of the better players. 2003, definitely wasn't one of the better players. That was that. I think that was the version after the red version where the girlfriend never gets spoken to. So that was definitely second year at uni version. And I'd have played a lot of East Stirling and lower league teams at that point.
Good save.
You know, he might even have been in that book Pointless, I think.
Aye.
Yeah, because I was determined to go East Stirling after I read that. I could turn a bottle of vodka like a beast. That sounds like all that East. That sounds like every lower league football player in Scotland now.
Definitely.
Liam, to be fair.
So that does lead us on quite nicely to the next thing I want to talk about. Watch Was FM. Are you still alright for time, mate? Aye.
Yeah, I'm watching,
so
mate.
cool.
I've only got a uni dissertation that I should have done by Friday. It's at that point where I've been working away my dissertation, and I love doing this. It's genuinely love doing the studying. Going back to uni this year has not been a chore, but it's like this one thing I'm doing because I know I've got to get it well done. If I get it well done, I've got a good chance of a good overall grade. Yeah. So I'm obsessing over it, like doing a lot more work than I usually do. So I'm like, So I am good for time. So back in FM.
So we'll talk about some FM. So as I said at the start, when I first started out streaming, Chrissy done a lot of stuff on FM at the start. I think what really, and you did speak about there about unique selling points. For me, yours was very different because you taught myself and the people that's watching you a lot more about tactics, about testing, about just more of a knowledge of the game, and that's what really stood out for me when I watch other people in comparison to yourself. A lot of other people do just like that. I'm just playing the game and I'm just chatting away with my mates, but you've got a real knowledge of Football Manager. So where does that come from? Like how have you got to that point?
Right. It comes through the whole no get my hole and then realising that right, I need to make this pointful. See get my hole. It's a terrible comment, isn't it? That phrase needs to go in the bin. That's not acceptable nowadays. Oh. Hello.
Connor drops it off, don't know what that was.
Exactly. Didn't get away with it now. No, it's good. It's good that I'm like, yeah, I need to bin that language as a young female walks into the camera view. Yeah, terrible language. But yeah, Football Manager. So I have been creating tactics in Football Manager ever since I started playing it. Like obviously most people do.
Yeah.
It wasn't until my son was born that I started playing it more, because I'd come in for night and the only things I really had was five-a-side football, pub quizzes, and FM.
Yeah.
Liam cancel Chrissy. Can he cancel me? I'm not famous. Checkmate. But yes, for me, when I started out, I wanted to get, because I did the football coaching like yourself, I was like, right, I want to see if I can apply what I like football coaching wise into this. And if any of you are out there, I was recommending Pointless as a book to read, but if you like football tactics, Inverting the Pyramid by Jonathan Wilson is a great book. I would recommend that you go out and buy it. I'd recommend you pirate it, whatever. Just get a hold of Inverting the Pyramid by Jonathan Wilson. It explains the tactical evolution of football from the very beginning of Queen's Park, starting off with the Scottish game, all the way through to current day tactics that we have now. And if you buy the most recent version, I'll have updated errata and FAQ with regards to like, tactics and everything else. The guy constantly updates revisions and additions of it. And I really, for me, it was a case of, right, I want to play Football Manager, and first of all, it was just about winning. It's the same way with comedy. I just wanted to make people laugh. And with FM, it was like, right, I just want to win. So I would go on like different forums and look at different tactics and look at what worked for other people, and then take the best practice for them and put it in to like the tactics that I was doing. So it'd be like corner setups and stuff like that, free kicks and that. And then I realised, right, I'm going to get more enjoyment out of this if this is 100% mine.
Yeah.
And I have intellectual ownership in my head of this, weird as it sounds.
Yeah.
So, like, because I'm one of those weird FM players, I'm only start the game off managing Man City. Every single FM save I got, I put in my actual managerial experience and my actual like, coaching certificates.
Yeah.
So that I start off in the lower leagues and built up. So, like, my current save that I even jumped on the day to prevaricate over the uni stuff. Started off at Stenhousemuir, got a Kelly job, won a treble with Kelly, moved on to Bayer Leverkusen. But I will genuinely, like, I will only just start at Bayer Leverkusen, and I eventually want to end up at a big club in England.
Yeah.
And that's where I'll do like the 10-15 year save. But I'll go through all the hoops. So that's my immersion in realism, because I'm probably mentally broke. Anyway, with the tactics stuff, it's very much a case of I wanted to have some ownership over what I was doing. I was on a forum called The Dugout, which was a vile pit of misogyny, but it was really, really great for tactics and stuff like that. And there was a guy called Guido Meri, who I sort of met through that, and a Dutch guy, absolutely amazing tactics creator. He has his own blog, Strikerless. He does a lot of stuff with FM, with Sports Interactive now. And I was chatting to Guido about tactics and that. Me and him had a sort of theory of, right, how can we make the most disgusting set pieces for any tactic work? Yeah. And then we realised, so that's what we'd do. Every edition that came out over a 5-year period, me and Guido would go away and work out how to break the match engine, basically. And then go, ta-da! So, like, of the last, can't I speak for this edition, for the last 6 or 7 editions, any throw-in or corner exploits probably came through either me and him or one or two others. Yeah. And then maybe change one or two things and put it out there as their own hashtag no better. But it's like, and that comes back to who's got the loudest voice in the community now. You know what I mean? So, like, for the last game I worked at a corner routine, and the FM 20, great, nailed it. FM 19, throw-in setups and stuff like that. I'd worked out fucking really unique, really worked. Don't get me wrong, there's times people beat you at the punch. Yeah. And that's fine, but I find every time there's an update, there's a new thing that you can change.
Yeah, okay.
So, like, it's normally you find like set pieces is the first thing I think that the developers go after. If you've worked out a set piece glitch, then you know, that's the first thing they'll fix. Rightly so, because people want to play a realistic game. But there's other people out there that I realised there was quite a big community that just wanted to win. So that was how it started off, just creating these scumbag Tony Pulis-esque tactics that could exploit set pieces. And then it was through the tactic creations himself and actually creating realistic tactics. So I'm a big believer in the formation 4-4-2 for history's roots in the UK. Grew up in the 90s lad, 4-4-2, hence the magazine's name, everything else. So I was like, I think 4-4-2 because of the mathematics of space. That's the best formation for having a balance between defence and attack. If it's applied properly, just flat, 2 lines of 4, 2 up front, because it's the most defensively sound in terms of taking up space. So I would obsessively work out how to make the best 4-4-2 for every version of FM for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And again, others would do similar, but others would like. Again, what you find that there's 2 types of tactic creators. There's those that create tactics because they love creating the tactic to work, or they're playing with theories and ideas. And whether the tactic's a game breaker or wins loads of games, that's a byproduct to them. Or you've got the others that want to create a really brilliant tactic, but they want it to win. And I was in that camp. I wasn't one of the one. I would float between 2 camps, but what I found was when I was putting out the tactics that were like faithful replications of like historic team tactics, people would go, well, fuck that, I want to plug this in. I don't want to make loads of changes and micromanage it, which is what you kind of need to do with a new version of the game. You need to micromanage your team. You can't just take a tactic and plug it in. I realised you could, and you still can, right? But you just need to be really rigid with how you go about it. So for like FM20 and FM19, I created 4-4-2s that could work home and away. And the people in the community would just get pissed with it because they'd be like, this isn't realistic and everything. I go, yeah, it isn't realistic, it's a game. I'm not turning up at Hampden or Lillishall going, this is how. By the way, boys, I don't know if you realise, but if you have 5 guys still on the sideline and you throw the ball to one of them, none of the other team come along. There's only 2 that get assigned every time. No, it's a fucking football management simulation. It's no replicating real life. You know? So for me, it was... I would create these scumbag tactics and win at all cost, and then I would create the tactics that would have a mix of both. And the ones that I would use, in all honesty, would be the ones that would be a mix of both. They'd be the 4-4-2s, but they were just like generic, like everything set to random, the set pieces. But I also made sure every year that I released one version that was the best 4-4-2 for the match engine, but also with the scumbag tactics. So that's what I came about, and really heavily into that from about 2007 onwards, right up until last year. And then last year I was doing stuff for the tactics stuff, did the streaming, and the uni stuff just became too much, and I was like, I can't do this and I can't do it justice. And we talk about unique selling point. That's what I was starting to do. I wanted to be the authority on live stream tactics questions and build up a community where it's just me talking about tactics in the game and doing Ask Me Anything. And I've really enjoyed it. But I just realised I didn't have the time to commit to it. And I mean, I'd happily talk about. There's 2 things that I'm quite geeky about. I love like Warhammer stuff and that because I like painting models and stuff. I'll happily talk to anybody. I'll happily talk to anybody about that, and Football Manager is the other one. I'll gas all day about Football Manager. But yeah, I love what Stu's saying. I used to spend my uni lectures writing down my formation with the first 6 and then backups in each position. I think we've all done that to an extent, whether it's some work or anything else. Working out your top players. I mean, I have a disgusting amount of information. I've got files on my computer, like gigabytes worth of FM files. And it's weird, like just the amount of stuff that I've got that's just purely tactical stuff. And like proper, like I created a Word document. It's like a 30,000 word document about how to play FM as like an alternative manual. And people get pissed with that as well because we're just wanting tactics. And I was like, no, this is if someone wants to play the game. But the good thing is in the last year or so, especially this year's edition and last year's edition, you don't really need a manual because they explain how to play the game in the game pretty well anyway. You know what I mean? They've pretty much came to that. But for me, it was like, okay, what if you've never played this before? What if you've got this is your first exposure to Football Manager? I think you kind of need a manual or something just to fucking explain it all in deep depth. Instead of blunder fucking your way through it, which is the way the game experience is now. If you're brand new to it, it's like getting thrown in a swimming pool and getting told to learn to swim. It can just be so overwhelming. And I think creating the problem is that they say, oh yeah, we've created a streamed down version of the game, but no one that's getting into a game for the first time is going to go, oh, I want to play the light version. They're all going to want
definitely.
to play the big version. So I created a document where people could just go into it and just check. Do you know what? I'll check Patreon, because it should be on the Patreon thing, and I'll just link it because it's free. You can knock yourself out. But
I actually found it earlier on, so I remember when you released it and you were telling us about it, and it is genuinely like a massive breakdown, goes down into each sort of, almost the kind of breakdown of the left hand side and splits it all out. It's very, very good. It must have took you a lot of time to be honest, but it's a good document.
I'm just trying to see.
I think I totally agree with what you're saying though. I think for like myself probably slightly later coming into the game, but when you join the game at the start, they've almost built bits on at every single stage. So when you're doing that, picking it up, it's fine. But I think if I was to go into that game like Football Manager now and try to understand that with the amount of depth that the game's got just now, it'd be so hard to pick up and understand. And they have got obviously all these different things where you can share out responsibilities, all that sort of stuff. But if you don't know you can do that, it would be difficult to pick up that game, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's weird. That's another thing that I've scrubbed, that I've not checked Patreon. I'm like, where have I put that? It's amazing the amount of stuff. I took a lot of content off the FM websites because I was just so scunnered with everything.
Aye.
But you can still see, like, I've got the odd things that are still in forums, like FM Base. I used to put stuff in FM Base quite a bit, and I really enjoyed that as a forum. But the problem is that, here's the thing, right? See, when you create these tactics and that, people just rip them off and then change one or two wee small things and then make it theirs. The one that really got me was I created, again, doing the 4-4-2 stuff. And like in comedy, like you wouldn't get away with that in comedy where people just rip off your best tactics. So I used to get quite aggrieved, and then I realised, well, it's pointless getting upset over a computer game. But it did genuinely used to piss me off that you create a tactic, you see someone just changes and tweaks the player positions a little bit, that makes the tactic worse, but they'll still present results that are better than what you've done because they'll lie. They'll just save scum it till they get it out there. It's weird. Like one of the things I used to do was I'd post like the tactic that I've created, and then also post the save game file.
Yeah.
Right, and the reason I used to do that was so anyone can check that is genuine, and that I've not did save the game like 15, 16 times. I've maybe saved it like 3 times over the course of the tactic save.
That was one of the things that I actually didn't realise was a thing, but when I watched you, that was one of the things that you spoke about, was like your save count, because it tells you how many you do it, and that's how you can almost tell if somebody's like you say, just save, refresh, go through it again. I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest.
Yeah, there's people that do that in the tactics community. There's some really, like, it's weird, there's some people that are really quite obsessive over it. I would rather, if I created a tactic and it was shite, I'd rather own the fact that the tactic's shite rather than put out something that's pish, you know. But it's weird. I think you need to spend a good 100 odd hours testing tactics to know if they work, and that was one of the things I used to do in the streaming. I used to go through it and all of that and used to test them all out. But yeah, it's the official SI forum is a good place to go if you're looking for tactics as a starting point. But I think FM Base has always been the best place. But the problem is you get people that, because everybody's wanting to stream now and everybody's wanting to put their content out there, people take over these forums, like they call it a personality, and they want to be like the streamer for that forum. You know, and FM Base suffered that. There's a guy that does FM streams, and they're great, and he does tactics stuff and all of that, and that is great. But he was representing himself as like FM Base, and it's like, mate, you're trading off the brand that hundreds of people have built up, and you're putting yourself out as the authority of that brand. When really it's not you that's great, it's everyone in that community.
Definitely.
And it was at that point when I seen that, and I was like, nah, I'm taking a big back step from this community, because I don't think it's really for me. You know what I mean? I get pissed off at the unoriginality of it. I would have probably continued, and the new version I've not bought yet, which is weird, but I've told myself I'll get the new version once I submit my dissertation. So next month I'll get the new version, then I'll be all set for 2022. Because what I find is the match engines don't change that much. So if you get the 2021 version, and the last update of that's very close to what the first version or the beta testing of the 2022 matching
tweaks
will
in
be.
it, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and anyone that says any difference, oh shite, because the same tactics work. And you won't believe how many times the same tactics work, but they do.
I think
and the only thing that changes like set pieces. If you've got like a scumbag set piece thing, that'll have been the one thing they've changed.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely. One of the things I did want to speak to you about was some of the challenges, and again, I probably wouldn't have done any of these myself until I watched your stream. But there's two that stood out for me that I've seen you do. One of them was the Sir Alex Ferguson challenge that you tried, where you skipped, I think, is it the 11th of November, around that time, and you picked the team that's, I think, 19th. And the second one was the Sheffield United one, I think, if I remember rightly, that was don't want anything with the kids, and you basically had to use a youth team, which I thought were very, very tough challenges. But do you do these because you, like you said, do you find the game quite easy that you want to challenge yourself by putting in almost these different sort of stipulations to make the game a bit more challenging for yourself?
Well, from my point of view, right, is that if you've created a really good tactic, which is what I was professing to have done, right, then surely it's going to hold up in the hardest of scenarios.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, for me, it was like doing the Sir Alex Ferguson challenge. I think it's a great one. If you have a decent tactic, you'll smash that. No problem at all.
Yeah.
You'll never win anything with kids and only developing youth players. If you do that alongside the Alex Ferguson challenge, I think that's as hard as it gets. I don't think, like, not being able to sign players but also starting off with a team that's in a bad position to begin with.
Yeah.
I think, and that was like, I bought a Sheffield United scarf since gave it away for nothing on eBay. Literally did gave it away for nothing. That wasn't because I'd like done with Sheffield United. That was just because I was really angry with Ollie McBurney and I was like, I'm not supporting this man. No, but like, genuinely, it was like, so I did like those saves and like, I gave it a go and I tried my best. And like the Sheffield United one, I struggled. Like by the time I walked away from that, it was going okay, but it was clearly that was going to have to be a 3, 4, 5 year save game. It was weird because again the community gets back on you. I was like halfway through my uni work and doing loads of stuff, and I'd forgot to do a pre-season. Normally I just set the assistant manager to do it, and I just forgot, and I just kept going. I did the training and everything set up. Now if you don't have a pre-season set up, the match engine's going to scunner you, right? Mm-hmm. And then the people viewing it were like, "Oh, how can you forget to do that?" And I'm like, "Look, mate, out with this stream, there is other things that occur."
A wider life.
and without being a dick, I had things going on that week. So like making sure I had pre-season in my fictional simulation wasn't at the top of the fucking list. And people get pissed at that. Not many, but 2 or 3. And they were like, "Oh, that's how you're on a losing run." I went, "Yeah, obviously." But then I turned it around and they didn't like that. Because they don't want to see you turn it around. They want to see you get sacked, don't you? People are tuning in to see you go to shit. They're not tuning in to be good faith. So I was doing a thing where I was saying to people, and I actually got this from other FM streamers. This isn't from me. Again, this is about adopting best practice and paying homage to it. I'd seen other FM streamers give the option to do substitutes.
Oh yeah.
So during the game, so I was dead keen on that. But it was getting to the time where some people were like, "Yeah, just take off such and such and put on such and such." And I was like, right, you're doing this to be a cunt. And I get it. But then it comes to the point where you're not enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm totally fine with giving agency to the other people that are on the stream with us. But what I'm not fine with is you just deliberately sabotaging it. You know? And I think that's where the balance between having that relationship between your audience and good faith comes in. You know, where you realise that some people are just going to be shits for the sake of it. You know, and it's like, it is what it is. But I mean, these are personal gripes about a game that I love, and you know, the engagement that I love. You know, I really, really enjoyed the streaming, but just didn't have the time for it.
It does take up a lot of time. And I think similar to yourself, like you don't want to just kind of half commit to something, don't you? You want to almost, like, if you're going to do it right kind of thing. And if you are doing that, it does take up a lot of your time, definitely.
Well, it takes. Go back to what we're talking about. If I was wanting to do the streaming, I'd want to do it every day.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to what we're talking about: hard work, talent, and putting yourself out there. you know, and having your unique selling point. Liam mentioned Roscoe earlier on. Roscoe's a perfect example of that. Roscoe streams pretty much nearly every day, right? Roscoe will always be successful whatever he does because Roscoe puts the work in, right? And he's talented. And those two together, as well as putting yourself out there, that's your winning formula. Same for anyone else, you know. So you're up to 500 people on your channel just now. You keep doing this, you will grow. You'll hit 1,000, everything else. It's simple. If you persevere and you work hard, a lot of people, it's weird, you see all these like fucking gurus for success and that, and they're all like, you know, work hard, you know, as long as you work hard, you'll achieve anything. No, working hard's not enough. There's plenty of people in the world that have grafted their balls off their entire life and not got anywhere. You need to have talent to go with it, right? And talent can be learned and developed. So if you work hard, you're going to develop your talent. The one thing that people struggle with is having the perseverance to keep going and keep putting yourself out there. And then what can be frustrating is, and I see this with a lot of people that do streams, really good streamers, is they've got talent, they're really good at what they do, they work hard, they do it every day, and you know, they're persevering, they're not giving up, they're putting themselves out there, but they're not making it, and they don't know how, and it's because that fourth bit's missing. Are they the authority in what they're doing? Are they the unique voice in their community? And if they're looking at what they're doing and they're not succeeding, it's because they're not standing out. So they then need to change up what they do so they stand out. And that's the same for comedy, it's the same for streaming FM, it's the same for fucking everything, whether it's music or anything you're doing. And people don't get it. What gets me is in the creative industries, people it's like an anathema to them. It's a lot of people in the creative industries like comedy and everything else believe that my talent should be enough. Or my talent and working hard should just be enough. There's no point being super talented and working and gigging 6-7 nights a week if nobody knows what the fuck you're doing. If you're not publicising it and marketing it, then what's the point? You know, because all you're doing is, that's great, the clubs will employ you, you'll make a living as a full-time comic, but would you rather make a living as a full-time comic, or would you rather, you know, be really comfortable financially and gig when you want to gig instead of having to gig? You know, and I think that's the big difference between acts that go on to become huge is because they work out that formula. What's the most valuable thing in my life? It's time. Your time is fucking precious. So don't half-arse anything. If you're going to do something, do it properly. And that was the big decision why I came off streaming FM, because I was like, I cannot do this justice. And although I really believed that I was doing something unique, I just didn't believe that I could commit the time to it. But you know,
hopefully
that might change in future. That might change in future, man. But it's like I know that as long as you have a unique voice and collaborating with other people is important too. That's part of the getting your name out there. There's so many people that are really good at what they do, but they don't work with others, and that's a mistake. You know. Don't ever be an island. If you're like streaming or you're into streaming, work with other people all the time, you know?
100% agree. McLean, welcome in, mate. I hope you're good. The last thing I want to talk to you about was obviously something that's coming up is the Euros. What do you think of Scotland's chances in the Euros, mate?
We're getting fucked.
Right, we'll get out the groups.
You can clip that one. Not a chance. And I'm a Steve Clark fanboy, and I'm telling you now, we're getting fucked. I think the other teams in their group are much better than us, and I think we're in for a wee rude awakening when we play them.
England at Wembley as well, eh?
I think the Czechs, we've got a chance for the Czechs, but Croatia and England, I think, will give it. Got to remember, semi-finals of the World Cup, only a couple of years ago, they two were. One of them was a finalist, right? In our hubris, we're like, I think we can get out of the group stage. The Czech Republic even, probably on a par with us, we've got a chance with them, right? I'd say we've got every chance. We'll probably beat the Czech Republic. If we defend like fuck, we can probably get a result against either England or Croatia. But we need to be on our game. We need everyone to play at their very best. And we need them to have a wee off night.
Definitely.
You know, I'm not saying we've no get a chance. Of course we've got a chance. Fuck, we've seen the likes of Greece, we've seen Northern Ireland, we've seen Iceland, we've seen Wales, we've seen teams that are very average go far in tournaments. but it's because they've had that intrinsic organisation behind them, you know, and I think we've got that. I think we're lucky. I think we've got a manager that's really pragmatic and plays to the strengths of the players that he's got. And I think for the first time in a long time, tactically, we're not naive anymore. We are playing to our strengths, not other teams. But I think it's a big ask. But that Champions League final gives you hope, because it just look at Raheem Sterling, who might start for England. Reece James had him in his back pocket the entire night.
So bad.
The entire night. And it just goes to show, just stick tight to him. Stick tight to him. Do not give him any space. Don't let him cut inside. Don't let him get the cross in, because he's getting nothing. He's get fucking nothing. He's no Ryan Christie. So, yeah, Rashford and Wednesday, Stu says as well. Rashford and Wednesday too, yeah. But they have players that just completely go missing if they're man-marked.
Yeah.
They go players that completely go missing. The hardest thing for us is going to be concentration.
Definitely.
We have players like Declan Gallagher, Stephen O'Donnell that have not played at a high level. They just haven't.
Yeah.
And they're going to be starting. So we need to be aware of the fact that we're going to have to manage players through games.
Yeah.
We're going to need to be as scumbaggish as possible. We're going to need to waste time. We're going to need to be really strategic about what we do, because we've not got fucking talent in the team.
Aye.
We really haven't. We've got players that are decent. You know, we've got guys like Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney that are amazing, but our two best players are left backs.
Same position, aye. You can tell Stu's an Aberdeen fan, eh?
Yeah, Stu. Yeah, Declan Gallagher next season. Gallagher's signed for a purple team. That's it. See, that's the banter we like. I think we're strong at centre mid. Do you know, we're strong, but Scott McTominay, you're never hearing that name and fucking creaming yourself, are you? You know, it's like, we have competent, I think we have competent players. With Callum McGregor, you know, Scott McTominay, John McGinn's really good again, competent player, does well in the Premier League. But we've got nobody world class in our team. You can make the argument that Robertson and Tierney are knocking on the door of being world class, and have pulled out world class performances at time. Arguably are two very good, consistent players. But they're the only two you could argue that for. There's nobody else in the team that's really knocking out the park. I really like Lyndon Dykes, but I think against experienced physical centre halves, he's going to get found out. And I don't see him causing, especially the English centre halves, I think they're just going to eat him up. He's a QPR in their second tier for a reason.
Definitely. Definitely.
You know? So basically, in summation, I think we're fucked. But we'll have a laugh. At the end of the day, any tournament we go to, for anyone that's too young to remember, I remember being young enough to remember France 98. We go along and we'll have a laugh. We'll have a party. We'll enjoy ourselves. We'll have a good time. I think Scotland fans should treat this summer like a fucking Brucey bonus. You know, we're there. We're going to have a laugh. We're going to annoy the other lot just by being there. Just by being there, we're going to annoy England, and that's enough. You know, that's all we need to do. What's going to be insufferable is when they do inevitably tank us, and we need to deal with the press. So if you're in Scotland, just, you know, patch it.
It'll be a good time, though. It'll be a good time. McLean, the full podcast will be available to watch. You can watch it on Twitch. It will be on there. If I can work out a way of getting it onto like Apple, all that sort of stuff, I will do it. I've said that for everyone I've done. I've not managed to do it yet, but I will work out at some point. But I always keep the VODs on the Twitch. So if you go back onto the Twitch channel, it'll be there so you can watch it. And to be fair, I always worry that when I come onto the podcast, I'm like, oh, this time is going to be like, we'll have nothing to talk about, but we're 2.5 hours in and I feel like we could talk all night. But I think we'll wrap up there. I appreciate your time, Chrissy. Honestly, that's been brilliant speaking to you tonight. I really appreciate you coming on.
If you ask me in September, you'll be on to fucking plums. But no, Jess, look, it's been nice chatting to you about stuff, and obviously you love FM. You came along to the comedy gigs and stuff like that. So I appreciate you, I value and appreciate the time you've given to speak to me today, and I love the fact that you're into the same sort of stuff I'm into as well. It's good banter. It's good to chat to like-minded souls. Obviously, you're happy with a family and that, but you can't have everything the same, can we?
Definitely not. Do you want to tell the people that are watching what have you got coming up next? When can they see you in terms of comedy? What have you got?
Right, I have coming up absolutely fuck all because I live in Glasgow, which is currently in the Hunger Games scenario just now, and we're not allowed to go out anywhere. In terms of comedy, if you go on to Gary Fauld's page, I'll be supporting him in all his tour dates. So if you want to see me, you can catch me there. I'm releasing my own tour after September, and I've only really got one date booked in for the Cake Park Masters, but even then I'm keeping that in the low key. I'm going to have my whole tour announced when I know that I don't need to rearrange the dates again. But I'll be in Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Dundee, Perth. I'll be all over the country, doing frees everywhere, touring, so it's all good. Who is Chris Ross anyway? McLean, that's a very good question. Something the police have asked quite many a time. The answer is Aberdeen Breakneck. Stu, I'll definitely be at Breakneck. I'm actually really good pals with Naz that runs it. And I might actually be up there hosting gigs as well as doing my own solo show. So Breakneck Comedy in Aberdeen. I might also be doing a gig in Ellen up that way as well. So, because I've got friends that are out that way. So, yeah, definitely gigging all over the shot. But, see, McLean gets. He can have a wee shot and then have a laugh at me again in my comeback. That's how banter works. Dundee. I'm going up to Dundee. It's not to do a gig. It's just to take a shit in the town centre to improve it, and then I'm leaving. I'm joking. Dundee. Dundee's a nice place. I did the Gardyne Theatre at Dundee in support of Gary, and it was one of the best gigs I've ever done in my life. So I can't slag Dundee. It genuinely was. There's obviously the Armadillo 3,000 people that you're selling is amazing, but the Gardyne Theatre in Dundee and the Beacon Arts Centre in Greenock, two of the other best gigs, absolutely amazing. You know. So that's it. I plug. So basically, just follow me. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram @Comedy Chrissy. That's all I can ask. And then once I'm actually doing shit, come and see. Until then, just watch his streams.
So as Chrissy said, drop a follow on all his socials. I can vouch. He is good.
He's no shit.
Aye. And obviously, if you go to one of Gary Fauld's shows, that's also two very, very good comedians you get to see in one night.
I would say if you want to see me, there's a video of Sven on YouTube. Chrissy Ross Sven, type that into YouTube, and you'll get to see me there like a wee 12-minute story. And if you like that, come to my shows. If you don't like that, fuck off.
That's very good. But again, thanks again, Chrissy. I really appreciate you coming on. I know obviously you're a busy man, and it's been but it's been really good speaking to you, mate. So we'll go and raid just now. We are going to go and raid a DJ who is doing a Push for Partner stream called DJ Missile. I don't know if I've actually watched this person before. I follow them. I don't know if I've watched them before. So when we go across, chuck in your jam bombs in the chat, make some noise, and I will see you over the next. I'm actually on holiday for the next week. So I'll probably doing a bit more streams during the day, which will be good. But as I said, let's go and see DJ Missy. And as I said, Chrissy, thanks again for joining us, mate. I really appreciate that. Has that raid gone through? Are we raiding?
Oh.
Are we raiding? There we are.
There we go.
Cheers, Stu. Thanks for coming on, mate. I appreciate it. I will just wait till this button comes up. I don't know what's happening here. Perfect. Right, let's go.